Chapter 52. Hong Lian is not allowed to enter Prince's mansion. The corners of Consort Xiong's mouth curled up into a bitter smile. What use is it for the Emperor to protect me? Will he investigate the cause of my poisoning and punish the Empress to avenge me? Your Majesty, with the assistance of genius Dr. Chu, this matter is not impossible. Xiong Ling supported Consort Xiong and remembered the torment she had endured over the years, feeling deeply distressed. The sapphire-like eyes of Consort Xiong radiated brilliance. It might indeed work. As long as she could protect herself and cure her illness, why couldn't she seek revenge on the Empress? On the carriage leaving the palace, Su Yingxue continued to wear her bamboo hat, refusing to take it off or speak to Chu Yihan. No matter how Chu Yihan looked at her, she acted as if he was inconsequential. Chu Yihan's voice was cold. I was waiting for you in the prince's mansion. Why didn't you wait for me? She was the one who broke the promise. He tried to coax her, yet she still harbored such animosity towards him. The stack of books brought by Mo Chi was nothing but rubbish. If he hadn't brought it up, Su Yingxue wouldn't have been so angry. However, the moment he mentioned it, Su Yingxue recalled seeing Hong Lian in his prince's mansion. Hong Lian, with the airs of a mistress, told her that she hadn't attended to Chu Yihan yet. Her heart felt as if it had been ruthlessly squeezed. After the carriage left the palace, Su Yingxue turned around and glared at Chu Yihan. One went to look for you, but since you've someone to serve you, why did you come and provoke me? 1. Su Yingxue, don't want to do something that takes away someone else's favor. If Chu Yihan was indecisive, she wouldn't bother with him. Su Yingxue quickly jumped off the carriage, and Zi Wei appeared just in time. Before Chu Yihan could react, she had already disappeared into the streets. Chu Yihan returned to the prince's mansion, seething with anger, and immediately summoned everyone to question them. Mo Chi trembled. Master, one asked, and Miss Su did come, but she left before you arrived. Why did she leave? And even said that someone would serve me. Who is attending to me? Chu Yihan's anger was icy, and Mo Chi immediately knelt. The people in the courtyard knelt, not daring to make a sound, fearing that they would only anger Chu Yihan. If you can't figure out this matter, all of you get out of my prince's mansion, Chu Yihan shouted in anger, causing everyone to tremble in fear. The old housekeeper couldn't help but speak. Your Highness, before the arrival of the genius doctor, Lady Hong Lian also came. I wonder if the two of them met. Hong Lian. Chu Yihan's eyes narrowed dangerously. He took out the things that Hong Lian had annotated with a red pen on the desk and looked at them. Then, he remembered what he had done to Su Yingxue yesterday, which had led to her disgust and anger towards him today. Chu Yihan immediately threw the books at Mo Chi. Tell Hong Lian that she is no longer allowed to enter the prince's mansion. Your Highness, Hong Lian has always had a good relationship with you. Mo Chi stared at him in disbelief. Hong Lian had been on good terms with Chu Yihan for many years, yet now she was forbidden from entering the prince's mansion. Do you want me to say it again? Chu Yihan's eyes carried a stormy darkness as if one more glance would be fatal. Mo Chi didn't dare to delay and immediately went to the Silver Moon Pavilion to convey Chu Yihan's order. Upon hearing about the unpleasantness between Chu Yihan and the genius doctor, Hong Lian's face broke into a bewitching smile, and her eyes filled with a seductive charm. But Mo Chi's face turned grim as he informed her that Chu Yihan forbade her from entering the prince's mansion. Her smile froze on her face. How is that possible? How could this happen? Your Highness wouldn't do this to me. It felt as if Hong Lian's heart had been pierced by a sharp blade. She grabbed Mo Chi, panic filling her eyes. Did you hear wrong? How could Your Highness be angry with me? We have known each other for so many years, and we have such a good relationship. Announcement. We are moving box novel. Com to bro novel. Com, please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53. The Battle. Hong Lian's punishment. Don't you know what kind of personality Your Highness has? You knew that the genius doctor was someone you couldn't easily touch, yet you easily drove a wedge between her and Your Highness. Your Highness didn't make a move on you already because of the many years of knowing each other. But these years of knowing each other end here. Mo Chi said as he shook his head and sighed. Seeing the disappointment and heartache in Hong Lian's eyes, his heart ached. It won't happen. Your Highness wouldn't treat me like this, Hong Lian sobbed, her eyes turning red. Hong Lian, don't be too upset. Mo Chi tried to comfort her. But before his hand could touch her face, she forcefully pushed it away. With a pained hatred in her eyes, Hong Lian said, "It's all that genius doctor's fault. What qualifications does she have to make your Highness do this? Why does your Highness treat me like this because of her? How long has she known your Highness?" Mo Chi realized the danger and grabbed Hong Lian's shoulders to remind her, "You must not target the genius doctor. If Master finds out, he will punish you severely. You must not harm the person Master wants to protect." Mo Chi's nervousness indicated how much Chu Yihan cared about that woman. Hong Lian quietly hid the jealousy in her eyes and gritted her teeth. Got it. Mo Chi finally felt relieved. But once he left, the flames of jealousy erupted in Hong Lian. She not only wanted to harm that woman, but she also wanted to make her die. No one could replace her position in Chu Yihan's heart. She was the only woman who stood out by Chu Yihan's side. Only she, who ruled over the Silver Moon Pavilion, was worthy of Chu Yihan, the extraordinary talent. On the way back to the clinic with Zi Wei, Su Yingxue remained silent. Zi Wei, who was behind her, seemed like a non-existent person. Su Yingxue couldn't even hear his breathing. But when she sought it, Zi Wei would immediately appear. Su Yingxue thought for a moment and was still angry. She questioned Zi Wei, "What were you doing last night? Why didn't you come back to find me?" Zi Wei's voice lacked any warmth. "I have been watching over you." "What do you mean? You were watching over me. Why didn't you just take me out of the palace?" Su Yingxue's face was filled with anger. Since he was watching over her, why did he let her stay in Chu Yihan's bedroom all night? "You didn't refuse him." Zi Wei's words were short but enough to convey his meaning. If Su Yingxue had rejected Chu Yihan, he would have made a move and killed him. Even if he couldn't kill Chu Yihan, he would have taken Su Yingxue away. But from his perspective, Su Yingxue didn't resist Chu Yihan, so he had been hiding in the palace until Su Yingxue left and jumped of the carriage. Only then did he appear and take her away. Su Yingxue bit her lip and said, "Are you saying that I willingly stayed with Chu Yihan?" How could she willingly stay? She didn't. Su Yingxue returned to the clinic in a huff. She hadn't made any house calls for 2 days, which alarmed Manager Qi. He wanted to show concern for Su Yingxue, but she coldly ignored him. Only Zi Wei could approach Su Yingxue. He inquired Zi Wei, "Little brother, do you know why Miss is angry? It's not good for her health to be angry." "I don't know," Zi Wei replied expressionlessly. "Then bring a bowl of ginseng soup to Miss." "No." Manager Qi's forehead was covered in sweat. It seemed that anyone who could be on the same side as Miss wasn't quite normal. Su Yingxue locked herself up for several days. In order to prevent herself from getting angry, she organized all the patients' files, prepared medicine for Consort Xiong, prepared medicine for Zi Wei, and filled her schedule to the brim, not allowing herself any spare time to think about Chu Yihan. Chapter 54, luring him to drink medicine inside the Medicine King Valley. The whiskers of the little ginseng swayed in the air. "Hey, if you like someone, just admit it. Why are you being so awkward?" "I didn't," Su Yingxue said coldly. She had calmed down these past few days, and she no longer deliberately thought of anything. "But that your Highness is handsome." The little ginseng couldn't hide its fondness for good looks. After living for thousands of years, it had seen countless people, dogs, and grass, but Chu Yihan was the most pleasing to its eyes. It would be a pity if Su Yingxue didn't get to see him every day. "If you like it, go and see it yourself." Su Yingxue opened her eyes after she finished preparing the medicine. She opened the door and called out, "Zi Wei." A man dressed in black swiftly appeared before her. He didn't utter a word, but a deep purple hue at the corner of his eyes revealed his presence. It was a full moon night, and his expression seemed normal as usual, except for his increasingly pale lips, which confirmed Su Yingxue's suspicion. "Tonight, the poison will flare up. Drink this medicine and rest well for the night." Zi Wei glanced at the medicine and said, "I'm not drinking." "Why?" Su Yingxue grabbed his hand, and the prominent veins and the black discoloration on his arm were clear signs that the poison was acting up. He was enduring great pain. "You are in great danger," Ziwei said calmly. Su Yingxue forcefully placed the medicine bowl into his hands. "It's just for one night. I won't die, but I don't want you to suffer this pain. The more the poison flares up, the harder it will be for me to save you." The poison in his body was highly potent, and if not for his powerful martial arts skills and deep inner strength, he would have died already. At present, he was holding on, and for Su Yingxue to save him, she had to minimize the frequency of the poison flaring up and gradually heal his body. Ziwei put the medicine bowl down and refused to drink it. Su Yingxue picked up the medicine again, but he retreated. "Tonight, it's dangerous. You are currently experiencing the poison flare-up. Even if I'm in danger, you won't be able to protect me. Drink the medicine quickly," Su Yingxue urged him. Ziwei, as the #1 assassin of the Silver Moon Pavilion, was exceptionally sensitive to auras. He could sense the danger surrounding Su Yingxue. He absolutely couldn't drink the medicine and fall asleep, losing his ability to protect her. Su Yingxue didn't possess such a heightened perception. She beckoned him with a wave of her hand. "Come here, I want to tell you something." Ziwei stood still. "Speak. Come closer. It's a secret that only the two of us can hear," Su Yingxue said, using a playful tone and winking at Ziwei. Ziwei's mind wavered, and he lowered his head. Her beauty had startled him. Su Yingxue continued to entice him. "Hurry up and come over. One have something important to tell you." Ziwei's face unconsciously reddened, and he lowered his head, taking a few steps toward Su Yingxue. But as soon as he raised his head, Su Yingxue swiftly stabbed 2 needles into his neck and forcefully poured the medicine into his mouth. Ziwei's body immediately went weak, and he struggled to vomit out the medicine. Su Yingxue firmly held his hand. "Why are you so stubborn? I said I'll save you, so I will. You're not allowed to die in front of me. It's dangerous." Ziwei struggled, but he couldn't resist the strong effect of the medicine Su Yingxue had administered. Before long, his body turned weak, and he fell into drowsiness. Su Yingxue dragged him onto the bed, covered him with a blanket, and gently patted his emaciated face. "Don't worry about me. It's just one night. Rest well. Assassins are humans too. You need to take care of your body to protect your master." Su Yingxue's lips curled up, revealing a sweet smile. Ziwei's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 55. The battle. It hurts to slap your face. Her Imlis Eden revt im RMFO Iltskugner Tagzane the FSCT of Heat Dieknim Ni his Dewey, B, and he Lysiak Leaf PS Ela just as he had fallen asleep. Su Yingxue's mind was bombarded by the little ginseng's panic. No, panic-stricken beard. "You fool. His intuition is spot on. Tonight is dangerous. Let's return to the Marquise Manor. The elite troops in the manor should be able to handle it. If he experiences a poison attack tonight, he won't have the strength to protect me anymore." Su Yingxue put on her hood, grabbed a horse from the backyard, and hurriedly made her way back to the Marquise Manor. "Erov we she ditden tantsiape art hetis imitet einem uuld be even more HLRSS. Ut hd nirmby for poelp siomingot kill ray adda, odblue den yetaru all tient on ignat ri lfi." With the help of little ginseng's power, Su Yingxue managed to hold her ground for a while, but gradually, the situation turned against her. "Go to hell. The Adela of eth di kalbka lasset nissa toedu sha ilnipk tion the ria and migain a sikatarat. Re tifalahu us uyigson algeli dodegt heat, katareram was dig yb heat b laid gornvia hsa. Gee ouch," the little ginseng whined in a childish voice, "that hurt." "I didn't feel hurt, so why are you feel hurt?" Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. She wanted to beat up this unruly fellow. The atletal engisane fdup pu zisw shrike onlgri tzec at sunu. I use vt ildia danol u that t wassa egduosana, te litis ended up noxing my out. Neve fi u were ot, ed I wuldo be a ret ot evas warrior f. Illinois u, Su Yingxue was tripped by one of the attackers. Seeing the blade descending towards her, she was fortunate to have 3 silver needles in her hand. It was her last resort. However, before the blades of those attackers could reach her, A powerful gust of wind swept through, colliding with them and causing their bodies to break apart. ATSE akurtsi eru nfgua iatnags slul danutenet uroj, ndna su youngska kudrathi oduns for urtibian sngthia. Tar damn, that was impressive. The little ginseng exclaimed in her mind, filled with awe. Su Ingshue furrowed her brows. Yes, it was impressive, but who was this formidable person? Na WHSE Rejunit ordna shiaswa man udunsian rua for st, ilitohi ihs prio kalab of nanpipto at nosnu DNA evuntaniga the E7. ATG Chin FSRTO OSAWD in his HDHD Agenema unsdate Iwat Odal beite all of ter nemi's dar laif. NL when his gaze met hers, his deep and boundless eyes held a trace of tenderness. Su Yingshu's face involuntarily blushed. Emma BLD Kakla Arsret KC Udresh Afawer, D Tuba C Ihan Stodo Ni front of Su Ujinks Diagal Yun Co. SRD Su Yengu Adnaya Nurida, M Bates Luod Kir the Soden of Boldot Gersptanli and Selfly Begni Rent Ratpar as Chu Esihan Osad Skati Siayud now. These attackers didn't even have a chance to utter a scream before they all lay dead on the ground. The streets of Chang'an were filled with corpses. Usi Aniwai Jita his sword Nadine chured to filter sixuing wit 1 DNR IHS tone, which Darnib Gelent morph heat Tratsu Kendia, Ir Uol? IAT GRH Su Ingshue shook her head. Fine. However, Chu Yihan's gaze fell upon the wound on her arm, and his expression turned grim. Wo, he Psi Osen Darso. MHTL Ginnison Leafidus Yixisjan Mindi WH Reet, Alni know the regver of crying while Tigni tes answered Hefki. Can I trade places with you? I also want to be embraced by such a handsome man, the little ginseng pleaded in its innocent and adorable voice. No. Su Ingshue instantly rejected the request without hesitation. At Liatel T Ngigns Fetal Sadden. SS Abes Absob. Can't what? Chu Ihan looked at Su Ingshue with confusion. Su Ingshue blushed and shook her head. It's nothing. Niet ritnuek tinsor otas nditd haveth hartigot azionotem high. After all, he was the one who saved her life. Chu Ihan carried Su Ingshue back to her room. Su Ingshue suddenly felt a tingling sensation on her face. She had resolved not to return to this place for the rest of her life, but reality had delivered a slap to her so swiftly. Simak being slapped in the face hurt. Chapter 56:1 Can stay in the imperial residence. Chu Ihan came with a medicine box to bandage her wounds. Su Ingshue couldn't help but mock him when she saw his proficient movements. It seems that your highness has saved many women. Chu Ihan lowered his head, fully focused. Only his magnetic voice responded to her. Only you. Your highness doesn't need to lie to me anymore. There must be plenty of women serving you. Wasn't Hong Lian, whom she had seen that day, one of them? A man like Chu Ihan wouldn't be lacking in female companions, right? She won't appear in the prince's mansion again, and she has never served me, Chu Ihan said each word with emphasis. After he finished bandaging her, he held Su Yingshu's hand and gently kneaded it. His strong fingers gently caressed her palm, as if checking for any injuries in her muscles and bones. But Su Ingshue found his actions ticklish and quickly pulled her hand away. Thank you, your highness, for tonight. I'll return to the Marquise Manor, Su Ingshue said, her face blushing. But before she could take 2 steps, Chu Ihan grabbed her arm. Once we leave the 9th prince's mansion, there will be a constant stream of people who want to kill the genius doctor. One will handle it myself, your highness. There's no need for you to worry, Su Ingshue retorted and vexed. Chu Ihan was domineering and formidable. Nobody dared to oppose him, but that didn't mean she had to rely on him for protection. Chu Ihan held on to her and pulled her back into his arms. Before you leave, one want to explain something to you. What is it? Your highness, please let me go. Su Ingshue resisted. What was there to explain to her? However, Chu Ihan dragged her into the study. On his desk, there was a pile of books, all about how to interact with women and make them happy. There were at least 10 books, each with circled questions and annotations in red. It was clear that the reader had taken them seriously. Su Ingshue was puzzled. Your highness, do you read these? Chu Yihan nodded. She was astonished. She had always assumed that someone like Chu Yihan would either read memorials or secret letters or study intricate military texts. Why would he read these books that were meant to deceive naive young men? Chu Yihan quickly answered her confusion. I initially wanted to use them to please you. So, one asked Hong Lian to annotate the parts one didn't understand. But she made you misunderstand, and when I followed her advice, you found it off-putting. That's why one ordered her never to come to the prince's mansion again, and one won't read these books anymore. Chu Yihan activated his internal energy and effortlessly shattered one of the books in his hand. His expression seemed somewhat serious, tinged with a hint of apology. But he wasn't one to apologize naturally, so he could only gaze deeply at Su Yingxue. Suddenly, Su Yingxue wanted to laugh. The dignified ninth prince had been deceived by Hong Lian. But when she considered that he had sought out these books just to please her, Su Yingxue's heart sank. She had misunderstood him. With a smile, Su Yingxue thanked him. Your Highness, you've put in a lot of effort, but I still won't stay in the prince's mansion. It wouldn't be beneficial for me if news were to spread. I'll return to the Marquise Manor first. Stop. Why can't you stay in the prince's mansion? If you want, you can stay forever, Chu Yihan said, hiding his clenched fists behind his back. He didn't let Su Yingxue see the trace of nervousness in his tightly gripped hands. Stay forever? That's even more impossible. Besides, not only would her reputation be tarnished, but it would also affect Chu Yihan's reputation. Well, just thinking about it was a little detestable. Chapter 57. This king only wants to take your Su Yingxue insisted on leaving, so Chu Yihan brought his sword and followed behind her. Su Yingxue turned to look at the man with a sharp gaze and awkwardly tugged at the corner of her mouth. Your Highness, it's not appropriate for you to keep following me, is it? I will clear the obstacles for you. If you choose to stay in the prince's mansion, you will be safe. But if you want to leave, one will fight until you are safe. Chu Yihan's words struck Su Yingxue deeply. She found herself wanting to stay. Firstly, if she returned to the Marquise Manor now, it would attract attention and expose her identity. Secondly, she didn't want to burden Chu Yihan and owe him too much that she couldn't repay in the future. One apologize for troubling you tonight, Your Highness. If there's anything one can do for you in the future, one will help, Su Yingxue said calmly. A strand of her hair fluttered in the night breeze, sticking to her fair and delicate face, making her look even more tender. Chu Yihan held his sword in one hand and lifted her into his arms, carrying her back into the room. Su Yingxue was placed on the bed. She hurriedly propped up the man's chest and said, Your Highness, I only said I would serve you, I never said anything about wanting to be with you, one only want to do this with you. Chu Yihan's eyes were deep, filled with a thick desire that disgusted Su Yingxue. She recalled the night in the palace when Chu Yihan took her first kiss and took advantage of her. Chu Yihan, if you dare touch me, I will poison you right now, Su Yingxue threatened, pressing a silver needle against his neck with a cold tone. Chu Yihan glanced at the needle on his neck and remarked, So, you want to poison me even after sleeping on my bed? The needle in Su Yingxue's hand trembled. You asked me to sleep on your bed? Rather than wanting to sleep with her? Chu Yihan turned over and lay beside her, his voice magnetic and slightly hoarse. I have no interest in forcefully taking a woman's body, especially yours. In the palace, Your Highness was not like this, Su Yingxue coldly sneered, pretending to be righteous. Are you dissatisfied with how one behaved in the palace? When Chu Yihan raised his eyebrow, a hint of wickedness appeared in his eyes. Su Yingxue sensed the danger and quickly turned away, covering herself with the blanket. No. She pretended to fall asleep quickly, but Chu Yihan chuckled and said, If I were to force myself on you, I would first conquer your heart and then your body. The order must be clear. He was a man of principles. Su Yingxue fell into a drowsy sleep. In her dream, she was too busy despising this man that she forgot there was such a dangerous person sleeping beside her. When she woke up, Chu Yihan had already gotten up and was drinking his morning tea in the room. Su Yingxue rubbed her aching head as she walked out. Chu Yihan had sent someone to assist her with washing up. While she was washing her face, He made sure to tell her, "Other than you, I do not need for anyone to serve me intimately." Cough, cough. Su Yingxue choked on the water and glared at Chu Yihan as she wiped her face. "That doesn't prove that you haven't been served by someone before. What if one or two little vixens had succeeded?" Hong Lian's appearance was also exceptionally seductive. Su Yingxue couldn't believe that Chu Yihan wouldn't be tempted by her beauty. Chu Yihan slammed his teacup heavily on the table, displeasure evident on his face. The old butler who was commanding the servants at the side said, "Miss, I assure you that your highness has never been served by a woman. In our prince's mansion, other than Miss, not even a female mosquito can enter." Chapter 58. Attacking the Empress soft side. The old butler was in his 60s or 70s. He looked at Su Yingxue with a sincere expression. Su Yingxue had a feeling that if she did not believe him, she would have hurt the old man's heart. "All right." After Su Yingxue finished wiping her face, Chu Yihan pulled her to sit beside him. Chu Yihan's index finger landed on her face, wiping away a drop of water that trickled down from her hair. Catching a whiff of the medicinal fragrance emanating from her, Chu Yihan couldn't help but lower his head and kiss the tip of her hair. He maintained good control and didn't kiss her, but his scorching breath enveloped and surrounded her. Su Yingxue's heart suddenly lost its rhythm. Boom, 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 boom. "Stop jumping. So noisy." In Su Yingxue's mind, little ginseng jealously rolled its eyes. Humph. Fool. Even kissing her required dodging. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. "Shut up. I'll settle the score when we get back." "What did you say? Settle the score?" Chu Yihan furrowed his brows slightly and asked. "Of course." Su Yingxue's eyes shifted, and a cold light poured forth. "The person who attempted to assassinate me yesterday must be involved with the Empress. One will never allow them to chase after me. The Empress is in the palace, and it's inconvenient for you to deal with her directly. The best approach would be to strike from outside the palace." Chu Yihan supported his chin and earnestly offered advice. "If we target her vulnerability outside the palace, her grown son, the seventh prince, would be the ideal target." Su Yingxue blinked. She needed to go back and check on Zi Wei's condition. If he woke up, she would have him go and capture Chu Changye. "Millimeter, I'll provide you with some manpower. Go and do what you need to do." Chu Yihan made it convenient for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue's beautiful eyes showed a hint of surprise. "Your Highness, the seventh prince seems to be your nephew. Are you so effortlessly giving him up?" Chu Yihan's expression remained calm. "What does my nephew have to do with me?" Su Yingxue was speechless. "Your Highness was impressive." Su Yingxue thought about how it was rare for her to let Zi Wei rest. So, she planned to let him sleep a little longer. With Chu Yihan's men, she directly captured Chu Changye after he left the house and dumped him in a secluded, dilapidated courtyard. Chu Changye had been weakened by her softening tendon powder and fell to the ground weakly. However, he bit his teeth angrily. "Who are you? How dare you capture me? Are you courting death?" Su Yingxue, wearing a black veil and a bamboo hat, stepped forward and delivered a kick to Chu Changye. "Be quiet." She loathed noisy and quarrelsome men, especially Chu Changye. If he shut his mouth, she would at least have something pleasant to look at. Chu Changye had been arrogant and proud since childhood. How could he listen to her? He shuffled closer to Su Yingxue's feet and muttered, "You'd better release me quickly. One will spare your life and leave you intact. Otherwise, I will definitely." All. Before he could finish, Su Yingxue stomped on his elbow joint, causing him to cry out in pain. She innocently asked, "What were you going to say? What will you do? Why did you suddenly stop talking?" Chu Changye was in so much pain that the veins on his forehead bulged. Taking advantage of Su Yingxue lowering her head and approaching him, he gathered the strength he had been storing and suddenly reached out, grabbing her hood. Su Yingxue immediately covered her face and turned around, while Chu Changye widened his eyes. He was about to see her face. This detestable woman. Suddenly, a powerful blow struck the back of his head. Su Yingxue's hood fell to the ground, and he was knocked unconscious. Su Yingxue saw Zi Wei silently landing and let out a long breath. Are you awake? Do you feel better? Ziwei's face was cold and expressionless. Yes. Your complexion looks better. Su Yingxue reached out to check his pulse, attempting to divert attention away from the fact that she had drugged him. Chapter 59. There's light on her body. There was still no expression on Ziwei's gloomy face, but he voiced a warning that contained a hidden threat. Next time, don't. Su Yingxue agreed on the surface. Okay, I won't use needles on you anymore. However, she still had to administer the medicine. You're not allowed to make me unconscious, Ziwei stated solemnly, enunciating each word. Su Yingxue attempted to change the subject. You stay here and watch over him. I'll go back to the Marquise Manor to check if my younger sister has returned. Su Yingxue. Ziwei called her by her full name, and the tone carried a hint of killing intent, causing Su Yingxue to halt her steps. She turned around, and the purple hues in his eyes emitted a bloodthirsty aura. I want to protect you, for a lifetime. As long as he was alive, Su Yingxue couldn't be harmed in front of him. At that moment, Su Yingxue felt warmth in her heart. Even though their relationship was merely an employer-employee one, with Ziwei being an assassin she had hired, his persistent desire to protect her made her want to say, thank you. Ziwei froze for a moment as if he didn't expect Su Yingxue to say that. He also didn't anticipate that her smile would be so captivating. Su Yingxue asked Ziwei to stay and guard Chu Changye, but he refused, insisting on following her. Su Yingxue couldn't resist him, so she could only give Chu Changye more medicine, making him sleep for a day and a night without opening his eyes. On the way back to the Marquise Manor, Ziwei did not say a word. Su Yingxue interacted with him more to gain his trust. In the future, if she had the chance to take him down and detoxify him, she would start chatting with him. When they discussed other topics, Ziwei responded with silence or simple acknowledgements. It was only when they mentioned the Silver Moon Pavilion that he would speak a complete sentence. Is Hong Lian the owner of the Silver Moon Pavilion? Su Yingxue recalled that enchanting woman and couldn't help but feel cautious. Ziwei pursed his lips. You could say that. What do you mean by could say that? Does it mean that the Silver Moon Pavilion has more than one owner? Su Yingxue tilted her head. The corners of Ziwei's eyes slightly lifted, as if he admired her intelligence. Yes. Then do you know Hong Lian? What kind of woman is she? Compared to me, who is more formidable? Su Yingxue's coquettish face exuded confidence. After all, she snatched him away from Hong Lian. He should support her, shouldn't he? Ziwei shattered Su Yingxue's fantasy with a single word. She. Su Yingxue's expression instantly turned cold, and the words not happy were faintly written on her face. Although Ziwei wasn't skilled at comforting people, he explained seriously, she is ruthless, but you are better than her. Upon hearing this, Su Yingxue's expression softened a bit. That's true. You have been devoted to the Silver Moon Pavilion for so long, yet she is unwilling to detoxify and help heal your body. She is not a good master. The first of may not have her level of power, but those who follow me will live well. Only by staying alive do we have the right to speak. In this second chance at life, nobody knew better than her that being alive was more important than anything else. Ziwei followed silently behind her. In his heart, there was an icy mountain, but cracks slowly began to appear. He inexplicably wanted to get closer to Su Yingxue. There seemed to be light and warmth emanating from her. In the Marquise Manor, Su Dingheng was so anxious that he had become much thinner. When he saw Su Yingxue return, he instinctively wanted to point at her and scold her. However, when the words reached his lips, he restrained himself and changed to another question. Yingxue, did your genius doctor enter the palace? Why hasn't he brought Ruer out yet? Su Yuro still hasn't returned to the residence. Su Yingxue raised her eyebrows, feeling somewhat surprised. Chapter 60. The seventh prince is missing. She thought that if the empress hadn't captured her, she wouldn't make trouble with Su Yuro anymore. After all, Su Yuro was Su Dingheng's beloved daughter and Chu Chengye's muse. But it seemed that she had underestimated the empress' ruthlessness. Su Dingheng's face was filled with anxiety and his wrinkles were deeply creased. Of course, she hasn't returned. I sent someone to the clinic to find you, but you weren't there either. Rua is your only sister, and because of you, she was detained by the Empress. You can't abandon her and must bring her back safely. A tinge of desolation crossed Su Yingshu's heart, and a mocking smile appeared on her lips. Father, have you ever considered that 1 a.m. also Su Yura's only sister? If it were me trapped in the Empress Palace today, would you speak to her in the same way? How did you end up in the Empress Palace? I senti it all because of that genius doctor of yours. She deliberately provoked the Empress. Su Dingheng retorted coldly, and his eyes filled with blame. If it weren't for the fact that Su Yuro still needed her help, he would punish Su Yingshu. Father, why don't you ask why Su Yuro recommended my genius doctor to treat Consort Xiong? My clinic was destroyed, so who took over? Was it you, or her mother who wasn't allowed into the house by her grandfather? Su Yingshu's icy eyes revealed a sharp edge, dissecting Su Dingheng's hidden thoughts. Su Dingheng became furious and yelled, Su Yingshu, how dare you speak to me in such a manner? I demand that you bring the genius doctor into the palace immediately and exchange her for Rua, or else I will expel you from the Marquise Manor. Is that so? Su Yingshu's powerful gaze startled Su Dingheng. Her sharpness was too overwhelming, and as her father, he found himself unable to control her. Father, whether Su Yuro returns or not is not my concern. Even if she dies in the Empress Palace, I will not claim her body. As for your other intentions, you'd better put them away, or else next time, it won't be as simple as someone being trapped in the palace. Su Yingshu said this and turned to leave. You just like your mother, you are nothing more than that. What's the use of living if you're not gentle and virtuous? You might as well die. Su Dingheng's heart filled with anxiety and anger as he watched her walk away, her flowing red attire and heroic appearance. After Su Yingshu left, Su Dingheng changed his clothes and went into the palace. Inside Fengzhou Palace, Su Dingheng paid his respects, and when Su Yuro saw him, she smiled understanding. Father, you were worried. I am with the Empress, and she treats me well. Su Dingheng patted her hand with relief and respectfully thanked the Empress. Thank you, Empress. Marquis Su, you should know that what one want is not your gratitude. The Empress, wearing expensive armor on her well-maintained hand, lightly slid it across the mahogany table, creating an eerie sound. Su Dingheng lowered his head. Rest assured, Your Majesty. I have already warned my rebellious daughter to hand over the genius doctor. Otherwise, I will punish her severely. I hope that your rebellious daughter will be obedient, the Empress said, caressing the armor, her eyes filled with killing intent. If Su Yingshu couldn't bear to part with the genius doctor, then there would be no need to keep Su Yingshu around. Empress, there's bad news. The 7th prince is missing. Outside the palace, someone urgently reported. What did you say? The Empress' eyes widened in anger. Su Yuro and Su Dingheng's hearts skipped a beat. Chapter 61. The Empress searching the medical center. Su Dingheng returned to the Marquise Manor with a stern face. When he saw Su Yingshu leisurely staying in the courtyard, he immediately rushed in and questioned, Su Yingshu, why haven't you brought that genius doctor into the palace to exchange for your sister? What if something happens to Rua in the palace? So, what if something happens? Why are you making such a fuss? Su Yingshu focused on arranging a basin, planting the herbs she had just dug out from Medicine King Valley. Don't you have any heart? She's your sister. Oh. Su Yingshu's expression remained indifferent. Marquis, this is tea with flower petals. Please have a taste. Jilan suddenly interrupted their conversation. Su Dingheng smelled the fragrant aroma of the tea and became even more furious. Why drink tea now? Su Yingshu, let me tell you, that genius doctor in your clinic should be chased out as soon as possible. Otherwise, if something happens to you, don't blame me for disregarding our father-daughter relationship. Su Yingshu ignored him and glanced at Jilan with praise. You've become smarter. It's all thanks to misinfluence. Marquis is currently in a fit of anger, so how can he enjoy tea? I used the best tea leaves and the dried flowers that Miss Wu just sent. The fragrance is captivating. If Marquis smells it, he might become even more infuriated and want to leave. Jilan blinked her eyes slyly and placed the tea in front of Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue finished planting the herbs and put them aside. She tasted the tea, and it was indeed good. She remembered Wu Jinyang. Did Sister Jinyang send a gift to brother? She has already sent one to you. How could she forget about eldest young master? But eldest young master is busy with military affairs and seldom returns to the residence. Xu Yang brought the gifts to the military camp. Eldest young master will overjoy when he receives them. Jilan replied with a smile. Prepare some gifts. The next time Sister Jinyang sends something, make sure to return the favor and ask her to accept it as a token of my gratitude. Su Yingxue instructed. Thinking about Wu Jinyan's difficult situation in the Wu family, she couldn't help but feel sorry for her. In a few days, once she had resolved the current matters at hand, she would lend a hand to Wu Jinyang. Jilan nodded and said, Miss had previously instructed me to return a catty of bird's nest to Miss Wu, along with some tonics and jewelry. However, the person who delivered the dried flowers today was not Miss Wu but an elderly lady from Fufeng Center. She said that Miss Wu couldn't make it and, according to Manager Qi, Miss Wu hasn't been to the clinic for several days. She said it casually, but she didn't expect Su Yingxue to detect something amiss. Sister Jinyang would never slack off. She has always been diligent. If she hasn't been to the clinic for several days, could something have happened at her home? Su Yingxue stood up, intending to go to the Wu family to check. Outside the door, Manager Qi rushed over. Miss, people from the palace have arrived. They have sealed our clinic. They said they are searching for the seventh prince. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows and had no choice but to follow Manager Qi to the clinic. Something had happened at the clinic again, and many people were watching from the surroundings. Even Liang Jin arrived with his men after hearing the commotion. When he saw Su Yingxue, he frowned and asked, Are you the owner of this clinic? Su Yingxue, despite her young age and previous reputation, remained polite when facing Liang Jin. Su Yingxue nodded. Yes, Su Yingxue. Welcome, Lord Liang. Su Yingxue still maintained courtesy towards Liang Jin, even without wearing the black veil. Liang Jin had no objections to Su Yingxue, but before he left, his madam had warned him not to let the genius doctor be harmed. So, he looked at the eunuch leading the imperial guards. Sir, I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to act in such a manner. If there is an issue, let me handle it on your behalf. Chapter 62. Can't find Chu Changye. The Grand Eunuch Liu Fu was a powerful figure in the palace, serving as the Empress' confidant and having significant authority. He held a piece of yellow fabric in his hand. This is a decree from the Empress, ordering the search of this medical hall to find any suspicious individuals or items. Lord Liang, do you intend to defy the decree? I dare not, Liang Jin replied when he saw the decree, refraining from further comment. With a hint of apology in his eyes, he looked at Su Yingxue. No one can defy the Empress' decree. Su Yingxue smiled and responded, It's all right, Lord Liang. The genius doctor doesn't visit the clinic every day. Upon hearing this, Liang Jin felt relieved. He wouldn't have to worry about explaining the situation to his madam when he returned. Liu Fu, accompanied by the imperial guards, thoroughly searched the medical hall, inside and out, including the medicine cabinet. However, they couldn't find a single trace of Chu Changye. Liu Fu came out anxiously and pointed at Su Yingxue. Where is your genius doctor? Did you hide her? Quickly bring her out. We are searching for Empress orders, and there must be no mistakes. Su Yingxue found herself in a difficult situation. The genius doctor is quite temperamental and doesn't work at the clinic every day. She may be resting or visiting the residence of a certain lord. In that case, where does your genius doctor reside now? Tell me. Liu Fu's voice grew sharper, resembling a stone scraping against a wall. The genius doctor doesn't have a fixed residence. Then which lord's residence is she currently visiting? Speak up. I don't know either. The genius doctor is quite capricious. Why don't you search every lord's residence in Jiangdu City? Su Yingxue kindly suggested. Liu Fu was infuriated by her words. You just wait. He didn't have the time or the courage to search every lord's residence in Jiangdu City. He left with the imperial guards and could only search for Chu Chengye from house to house. However, after a whole day of searching, they had no results. Liu Fu cautiously returned to the palace and kneeled in front of the Empress with a thud. Empress, I am useless. I couldn't find the seventh prince. But your highness is a remarkable individual, and he will surely be safe. Useless. What purpose do one have in keeping you all? My year. If anything happens to my year, the genius doctor, Tongchang Medical Center, I want them all dead. The Empress' eyes turned red, filled with intense rage. That genius doctor surnamed Chu was a rival she had never encountered before in all these years. She had failed to deal with her on multiple occasions, and now she had even lost Chu Chengye. However, she couldn't openly search for Chu Chengye. If the emperor found out that Chu Chengye went missing because of her actions against the genius doctor, they would surely have a heated argument. Moreover, Chu Chengye's standing in the emperor's heart would be affected. But if she didn't search for Chu Chengye, what if that deranged genius doctor did something to him? Ye, my son must not face any danger. Go and bring Su Yuro to me. The empress gritted her teeth and slammed the table. Su Yuro was quickly brought before the empress. Kneeling in front of her, she felt the empress' overwhelming anger and couldn't help but worry in her heart. Su Yuro, you useless person. What kind of idea was that? Your elder sister is not easily threatened, and now even my year has gone missing. If anything happens to him, I will kill you first. The empress grabbed the teacup beside her and hurled it at Su Yuro. Su Yuro dared not dodge, and the teacup struck her forehead, causing blood to flow down and stain her pure white dress. Chapter 63. Except Consort Xiong Su Yuro's delicate body trembled. If anything happens to your highness, I won't be able to live alone, but, your majesty, Rua believes that even if my sister is audacious, she wouldn't dare harm your highness. As for that genius doctor, I have a way to bring her back into the palace again. When that happens, your majesty must not spare her in front of the emperor. Your majesty frowned. What other methods do you have? Su Yuro stood up and walked in front of your majesty, a sinister look crossing her delicate face. Your majesty has been wary of Consort Xiong for so many years. She is the obstacle in your majesty's way. Why not use this genius doctor to get rid of her? Your majesty's eyes narrowed. Get rid of her. Many years ago, Consort Xiong was favored. Because of her identity as the princess of the western regions, she could not destroy the friendship between the two countries. Therefore, she only gave her a slow-acting poison and made her suffer. And now, there was a new genius doctor who could potentially cure her. The empress' eyes gleamed with malice, and her sharp armor pierced through the table. It's time to get rid of this obstacle. In Consort Xiong's palace, Xiong Ling had been following Su Yingxu's instructions, personally preparing and brewing medicine for Consort Xiong, without relying on anyone else. As a result, Consort Xiong's condition had been improving rapidly. At this moment, while she was boiling the medicine, Eunuch Qin rushed in with an anxious expression, pacing in front of her. Xiong Ling blinked her eyes and asked, Eunuch Qin, what's wrong? Why aren't you by your majesty's side? Eunuch Qin stomped his foot in anxiety. I heard something important, but I don't know how to seek your majesty's guidance. What urgent matter has made you so worried? Xiong Ling also became nervous. I heard that something happened outside the palace. The genius doctor who was treating our empress has suddenly disappeared, and they have sealed off Tongchang Medical Center. Your majesty's illness hasn't fully healed, so if this genius doctor goes missing, what will happen to your majesty? Eunuch Qin's face was filled with concern. What? Xiong Ling was so startled that she nearly overturned the medicine jar. While helping Eunuch Qin up, she accidentally burned her hand. This can't be. The genius doctor must not encounter any mishaps. Otherwise, your majesty's condition won't improve. One will immediately report this to your majesty. Xiong Ling hurriedly picked up the medicine jar, but she recalled the genius doctor's instructions and quickly picked up the medicine jar. Eunuch Qin blocked her. "What are you doing? The medicine hasn't finished brewing yet." Xiong Ling looked troubled. "But the genius doctor instructed that one must personally brew the medicine for your majesty. No one else should touch it." "Ah, you silly girl. Is the genius doctor's life more important or this medicine jar? One will watch over it here. You hurry and report to your majesty. Oh, and make sure your majesty tells the emperor to find the genius doctor." Eunuch Qin took the medicine jar from Xiong Ling and placed it on a small stove. He waved his hand at her. "Go quickly. One will watch over it." "Don't worry." Xiong Ling trusted him and immediately ran to Consort Xiong's chamber to inform her of the situation. Consort Xiong was worried about Su Yingxue and immediately went to the emperor. The emperor felt sympathy for her and immediately dispatched the chief imperial guard, Lan Ling, to search for Su Yingxue. He accompanied Consort Xiong back to the palace, reassuring her not to worry. After Consort Xiong returned to the palace, Xiong Ling finished brewing the medicine. She brought it over to Consort Xiong. As the emperor, Chu Mingyuan reached out to take the bowl of medicine. "I'll feed you." Though he was in his middle age, one could still see traces of his former resplendence. Now, he was holding a bowl of medicine and looking at Consort Xiong lovingly. "Come, Xiong'a." Consort Xiong's sapphire-like eyes shimmered, filled with admiration for this man. Chapter 64. Consort Xiong is dead. Thinking about how she had been bedridden for so many years and how he had never despised her, her heart was filled with warmth. After Chu Mingyuan finished feeding Consort Xiong the medicine, he wanted to return to the study. However, before he could step out of the palace gate, he heard someone screaming behind him, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, what happened?" Chu Mingyuan quickly turned around and re-entered the veil of Consort Xiong, only to witness her coughing up blood. Consort Xiong grasped the emperor's hand, her eyes containing a trace of reluctance. "Your Highness, Xiong'a. Xiong'a." Su Yingxue was gathering herbs in the Medicine King Valley, preparing medicine for Consort Xiong and Zi Wei. Little Ginseng had been nagging in her ear, "You are so good at saving others, why don't you save the person you like? Even though they carry the scent of old wounds, you haven't given them any medicine. If you say nonsense again, I will pull your whiskers." "Who likes him?" Su Yingxue rolled her eyes. "My whiskers can revive the dead, so don't say that lightly. Back to the topic, do you not like the 9th prince? Then why did you gather so much blood-clotting grass and 7-star lotus?" Little Ginseng caught sight of the herbs that Su Yingxue had secretly gathered. Su Yingxue snorted coldly and tucked the herbs into her embrace. "It's none of your business." This was the bad thing about little Ginseng inside her body. It knew everything she did, and could even see through her thoughts, leaving her with no privacy. Regarding its earlier claim that its whiskers could bring the dead back to life, she didn't take it seriously. After carefully preparing 3 sets of medicine, Su Yingxue was about to find an opportunity to give Chu Yihan his share of the medicine when a loud commotion erupted downstairs. Manager Qi stood outside the door and said, "Miss, the chief imperial guard from the palace has come to invite the genius doctor to the palace to see Consort Xiong, Your Majesty." Su Yingxue furrowed her brows. Why did Consort Xiong summon her to the palace so quickly? Could her condition have worsened, or was there a problem with her health? She quickly changed her clothes and put on a hood before descending to the lower floor. She intended to have Wu Jinyang deliver the medicine to the prince's mansion, but seeing that she wasn't working at the medicine cabinet, she handed the medicine to Manager Qi. "Deliver this medicine to the 9th prince's mansion." Manager Qi had never taken on this task before and received it cautiously. "Miss, rest assured. One will personally deliver it." Su Yingxue nodded and walked out of the medical hall. She boarded the carriage with Lan Ling. Having served Chu Mingyuan for many years, Lan Ling knew that Consort Xiong was his most beloved woman. Therefore, she treated Su Yingxue with particular respect. As Su Yingxue chatted with him, she asked, "Consort Xiong hasn't finished the medicine that I gave her, and Your Majesty suddenly summoned me into the palace. Is her body feeling unwell again? She wants to see me." Su Yingxue had a sense of foreboding. With Chu Changye as her bargaining chip, Consort Xiong knew 7 that Su Yingxue acted prudently and wouldn't summon her unless something happened in the palace or Consort Xiong had heard about an incident outside the palace. Su Yingxue's heart grew heavy as she followed Lan Ling to Consort Xiong's palace. Consort Xiong W7 as an intelligent and spirited beauty, and the atmosphere in the palace had always been light-hearted. However, as Su Yingxue entered, she felt an extraordinary weightiness. In the main hall, Chu Mingyuan sat with a dark expression. Before Su Yingxue could kneel and pay her respects, he angrily waved his hand. Lan Ling, seize her and kill her on the spot. Lan Ling hesitated for a moment, but Chu Mingyuan slammed the table and shouted, "What are you standing there for? Kill her! This thief who killed Xiong'er." Lan Ling realized the situation and immediately unsheathed her sword, swinging it toward Su Yingxue. Chapter 65, Chu Yihan. Are you rebelling? However, Su Yingxue reacted even faster and skillfully evaded his attack. She argued, "Emperor, one didn't harm Consort Xiong. Her condition was already improving. How could she be dead?" "Improved? Xiong'er didn't improve, she's dead." Chu Mingyuan's eyes turned bloodshot. "Just now, Xiong'er was lying in my arms, lifeless. She even asked me not to blame you, but she died because she drank your medicine." He deeply regretted giving this genius doctor an opportunity. Initially, the court physicians said that Xiong'er wouldn't live for more than 2 years, but she could have at least spent over a year with him. Every day she spent with him was precious. But she was dead now. "But, Emperor, please allow me to see Consort Xiong. Perhaps there's still a chance to save her." Su Yingxue couldn't believe that Consort Xiong had died just like that. "Emperor, Consort Xiong is already dead. Even the imperial physician has confirmed that she is not breathing. Perhaps she was an enemy spy and should be executed immediately." The Empress said sharply. "You're right. You caused Xiong'er's death. I will not tolerate it. Lan Ling, kill her now." Chu Mingyuan's eyes were red and filled with hatred. With Consort Xiong's death, his face had aged. Lan Ling's martial arts were strong, so Su Yingxue was naturally not his match. However, she still stubbornly resisted. "Emperor, let me see Consort Xiong. She still has a chance of survival. Don't you want her to live? How can one not hope?" Chu Mingyuan roared. When Xiong'er died, he was filled with despair. "Since you wish, then let me see Consort Xiong. She has been taking my medicine for more than a day. Why did something suddenly happen today? There seems to be something suspicious going on. Don't you want to investigate the matter?" The coldness in Su Yingxue's eyes swept across the Empress. The Empress looked at her righteously. "Consort Xiong is dead, and the imperial physicians have personally verified it. Do you think that the imperial physicians in the palace are all useless and can't even determine whether a person is dead or alive? Empress, why are you so certain that Consort Xiong is dead? Is that what you wished for?" Su Yingxue's voice was cold. Even through the black veil, the Empress could sense the sharpness in Su Yingxue's eyes. "How dare you?" The Empress quickly changed her tone to a soft and weak demeanor in front of Chu Mingyuan. "Emperor, how could one harm someone you cherish? This Unimound genius doctor has caused the death of Consort Xiong and is now slandering me. One believes she should be dismembered to avenge Consort Xiong." The Empress is right. "Lan Ling, seize her and dismember her." Chu Mingyuan shouted angrily. "Hold on." The man's voice sounded wickedly arrogant and a little disdainful. His black robe billowed as he entered the hall, instantly making the air thin and suffocating. "Ninth Prince, it's you again." The Empress gritted her teeth. It was Chu Yihan again. He had previously saved this genius doctor from her palace, and now he had appeared once more. Chu Yihan walked past the Empress, completely ignoring her. He approached Lan Ling and stared at him with a powerful aura. "Put down the knife." Lan Ling's knife was still pressed against Su Yingxue's neck. Lan Ling's gaze was determined. "The Emperor has given the order to dismember her into 5 pieces, and I am here to execute it." As he raised his hand, ready to strike, Chu Yihan swiftly attacked with his palm. The invisible force shattered the steel saber, causing it to break into 2 pieces that fell to the ground with a resounding clang. Lan Ling's hand holding the broken saber trembled, and he looked down to see his thumb and forefinger bleeding from the impact, causing a dull pain. Chu Mingyuan roared, "Chu Yihan, are you planning to rebel?" Chapter 66. Fight for her chance. It was rare for Chu Mingyuan to lose his temper with his ninth brother. He was usually arrogant, so he didn't take it to heart. But now, the person he was protecting was the one who lulled his beloved woman. "Imperial brother, please calm down. One just want you to give her a chance," Chu Yihan said with a cold expression, but his eyes softened when he looked at Su Yingxue. "What chance? I won't give her any." Chu Mingyuan waved his hand. "Lanling, capture her. Anyone who obstructs will be held equally guilty." Lanling received the order and took the knife from his subordinate. "Yes, one will obey." He led the Imperial Guards forward, expecting Chu Yihan to show some reaction. However, in return, Chu Yihan fought back against them. He defeated them all. Chu Yihan held the knife he had taken from the guard, blood dripping from its tip. The white blade reflected his resolute face, emitting a powerful aura that filled the entire hall. "Chu Yihan, I usually let things slide, but now you're becoming even more audacious." Chu Mingyuan had always been wary of Chu Yihan, and now he had offended his authority as the emperor, sparking a desire to kill him. "I have no intention of opposing you, Imperial brother. I only ask you to give her a chance," Chu Yihan firmly stated. The atmosphere was tense. Chu Mingyuan wanted to kill Su Yingxue, but Chu Yihan refused to give in. Su Yingxue knew that if this stalemate continued, they would not have a good ending, so she knelt and pleaded in a resolute voice, "Emperor, I am confident that one can save Consort Xiong. If one fail to save her, I am willing to die as an apology." As soon as she finished speaking, the Empress mocked her, "You lowly commoner, have you ever considered your status? Are you worthy of being near Consort Xiong? Imperial brother, let her try." Chu Yihan threw away the knife, his voice calm. Chu Mingyuan's anger had not subsided. "She caused harm to Xiong'er. Why should one trust her? Just because I am confident in saving Consort Xiong's life. If you insist on executing me, then Consort Xiong will have no chance of survival. Don't you want Consort Xiong to live and accompany you?" Su Yingxue's words struck a chord in Chu Mingyuan's heart. Chu Mingyuan thought of Consort Xiong and softened his stance. "Fine, I will give you a chance. If you cannot save Xiong'er, Emperor, this person has sinister motives and is protected by Ninth Prince. I'm afraid they have conspired together. Emperor, please think twice and don't let their scheme succeed." The Empress interrupted Chu Mingyuan and slandered Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. "Your Highness, there is no conspiracy. He was just protecting her." Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue back. "Get up." He held Su Yingxue's hand and looked calmly at Chu Mingyuan. "If she can't cure Consort Xiong, I am willing to share her punishment." The Empress' eyes widened, and a trace of joy surged within her. Consort Xiong had already passed away. If they could not only eliminate the genius doctor but also get rid of the influential Chu Yihan, it would be killing two birds with one stone. Chu Mingyuan had always been wary of Chu Yihan. This time, he had fallen into a trap. He snorted coldly. "You said it yourself." Consort Xiong's body was placed in the main hall, and Chu Mingyuan allowed only Su Yingxue to see her. No one else was permitted to enter. Su Yingxue suggested, "I want to meet Consort Xiong's maidservant and inquire about her recent medication. If they hadn't served Consort Xiong properly, the people in this palace would have been dragged out and executed long ago," the Empress taunted, a malicious glint in her eyes. Chapter 67. Little Ginseng's beard. Su Yingxue's gaze darkened as she realized that the Empress was truly ruthless, not leaving her any room to maneuver. A warm hand landed on her shoulder as Chu Yihan spoke in a deep voice, "Leave it to me. Don't worry." Su Yingxue's heart warmed, and she nodded in agreement. Chu Yihan turned and walked out of Consort Xiong's palace, while Su Yingxue entered the chamber where Consort Xiong's body lay. Chu Mingyuan followed Su Yingxue. He watched nervously from the side. Su Yingxue checked Consort Xiong's pulse and breathing, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. Consort Xiong was indeed dead. She is already dead, and you've arrived too late. Little Ginseng sighed, floating through Su Yingshu's mind. Chu Mingyuan, still holding on to a glimmer of hope, asked, "Can Xiong'er be saved?" Su Yingxue should have answered that it was impossible, but when she thought about Chu Yihan, who had taken on the blame with her, her brows slightly furrowed. "Emperor, please grant me some time to treat Consort Xiong alone." "No, I want to stay here and watch over Xiong'er to ensure you don't tamper with her." Chu Mingyuan firmly refused to leave. He had failed to protect Xiong'er when she was alive, so he would never allow anyone to harm her now. "Emperor, if I cannot save Consort Xiong, then I will willingly accept whatever punishment you deem fit. I cannot escape from the palace, but I am accustomed to handling illnesses independently. If Emperor refuses, then Consort Xiong will have no hope left," Su Yingxue calmly stated. Chu Mingyuan didn't believe that a dead person could be revived, but he couldn't bear to let go of her. He coldly declared, "I will give you one final chance. If Xiong'er does not wake up, one will surely have you torn apart." With that, he left Su Yingxue alone in the chamber. Facing Consort Xiong's lifeless body, Su Yingshu's eyes gleamed with a cold light. "Hey, are you stupid? He's already dead, and you're still gambling. Why don't you quickly escape with the handsome prince?" Little Ginseng's voice filled with anger as it flitted around in Su Yingshu's mind. That handsome prince looked very capable, and they would surely be able to escape together. Why did she have to agree to that emperor's proposal? Su Yingxue entered the Medicine King Valley, feeling somewhat hesitant as she spoke up. "Little Ginseng, you mentioned that your ginseng whiskers could revive the dead. Can you?" "No." Little Ginseng decisively rejected her. "Do you think my ginseng whiskers can be used by anyone? What if something happens to you? How can I save you? If you die, I'll die too." It was now merged with Su Yingxue, and it only sought to protect her. It did not incline benevolence or protecting so many people. As long as Su Yingxue didn't die. In that case, forget it. Su Yingxue asked and left. Little Ginseng protested in her mind, Hey, you're giving up just like that. She should at least struggle a bit more, talk about ethics and morals, and try to convince it. "I don't want to force you." Su Yingxue sighed. Little Ginseng puffed up its cheeks in surrender. "Fine, I'll give it to you." It lowered its head, allowing Su Yingxue to pluck one of its whiskers. Su Yingxue swiftly pulled one out. Little Ginseng screamed in her mind. "Ah, it hurts so much." Su Yingxue was slightly startled. "Are you alright, Little Ginseng?" "I'm not okay. It's so painful." Little Ginseng's voice sounded dejected. Su Yingxue blinked and smiled. She had deceived Little Ginseng into giving her the whisker. First, she made Consort Xiong consume it, then she carefully examined her pulse to determine the cause of her untimely death. Suddenly, Consort Xiong regained her breath and pulse. Su Yingxue also discovered that the medicine Consort Xiong had taken was poisoned, resulting in her immediate demise. Chapter 68. A ghost. Consort Xiong had just regained consciousness, and her body was still weak. Su Yingxue administered acupuncture to help stabilize her condition, waiting for her to gradually regain strength and open her eyes. Consort Xiong, who had previously lost consciousness, opened her eyes and saw Su Yingxue by her bedside. She anxiously grabbed her hand and said, "Genius doctor, did you also die? Is it because of me?" "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, I am not dead. You have also awakened," Su Yingxue spoke in a gentle tone. "What? I'm not dead. But I felt so much pain, unable to breathe, and kept spitting blood." Consort Xiong touched the corners of her mouth, where bloodstains were still present. "Look, I've vomited so much blood, yet I can still talk to you." Realizing something was amiss, Consort Xiong touched herself and then Su Yingxu's hand. She exclaimed in joy, "Could it be? I've come back to life." Su Yingxue made a quiet gesture. "Your Majesty, indeed, you were killed, but now you are alive." Consort Xiong shook her head in disbelief. How could someone who had died come back to life? Could the genius doctor in front of her be a deity descended to the mortal realm? Not only could she detoxify her, but she could also bring her back from the dead. "Your Majesty, the Emperor is still waiting outside, But I have an important question that requires a clear answer from your majesty. Su Yingshu's tone was earnest. Even though Consort Xiong's face was not visible, Su Yingxue could sense the seriousness in her eyes. Consort Xiong tightly clenched her sleeves. Are you asking why I died? At first, I heard that you were in trouble outside the palace, so I begged the emperor to bring you into the palace, hoping that he would protect you. But when I drank the medicine brought by Xiong Ling, I immediately felt indescribable pain in my organs, then I vomited blood and lost consciousness. I didn't encounter any trouble. Someone had long planned this. They poisoned you and framed me, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Su Yingshu's mind quickly turned, and she deduced that the mastermind behind this was the empress. She had Chu Changye under her control, so she directly killed Consort Xiong, making the emperor personally execute her. Consort Xiong's arm trembled. I didn't expect that even Xiong Ling would betray me. It might not be Xiong Ling. The empress had just encountered an accident, and she hastily executed everyone in your palace. Don't you think something is suspicious about it? Su Yingxue hoped that Chu Yihan would bring back good news. Consort Xiong took a deep breath as numerous scenes flashed through her mind, fueling deep-seated anger. The empress. No matter how much she tried to compromise, the empress would never spare her. She had even risked her own life. To be able to come back to life, it was all thanks to the genius doctor by her side. She resented it. She would never take another step back. Xiong'er, are you awake? Chu Mingyuan's excited voice came from outside the curtain. Consort Xiong steadied her mind and forced herself to suppress the hatred within her heart. Su Yingxue invited Chu Mingyuan inside. When Chu Mingyuan saw Consort Xiong sitting on the bed, he could hardly believe his eyes. He immediately rushed forward and embraced Consort Xiong tightly. Tears of joy welled up in Consort Xiong's eyes as she said, "Emperor, it was so close. Xiong'er can still be by your side. Xiong'er, you're truly alive." Chu Mingyuan's eyes were slightly red, unable to contain his excitement. Su Yingxue silently stood by the side and saw the empress enter, her expression initially fierce. But upon seeing Consort Xiong's eyes open, she was frightened, her face turning pale. "Ah, it's a ghost. A ghost. How are you still alive?" Chapter 69. Investigate. Su Yingxue let out a cold laugh. "Emperor, Consort Xiong has just woken up. She cannot handle any more shocks." Consort Xiong cooperated and lay in Chu Mingyuan's arms, pretending to be frightened and panicking. "Emperor, Xiong'er is scared. Don't be afraid, Xiong'er." Chu Mingyuan tenderly reassured Consort Xiong and immediately scolded the empress. "What are you shouting for? You frightened Xiong'er. Get out." The empress was still in a state of shock. How could she have thought that a dead person could be resurrected? She brushed past Su Yingxue and could not see her face, but she was even more afraid of her. She had brought someone back to life who had been dead for hours from severe poisoning. What kind of creature was she? While the empress believed that Su Yingxue was a monster, she also pondered her way out. Once Consort Xiong woke up, if the emperor investigated her cause of death, what should she do? "Emperor, Xiong'er almost died without any clear reason. I implore the emperor to seek justice for Xiong'er and let me stay safely by the emperor's side." After experiencing death once, Consort Xiong's gentle and soft personality was now filled with resentment. "Xiong'er, I will investigate." During their conversation, Chu Mingyuan looked at Su Yingxue with a gentle gaze mixed with a hint of vigilance. "I wonder, genius doctor, what method did you use to save Xiong'er?" "Emperor, I thought you would first ask why Consort Xiong was poisoned and how she was poisoned." Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow. "Who harmed Xiong'er?" Chu Mingyuan was taken aback. From the moment the genius doctor woke up Consort Xiong, his thoughts changed. If it wasn't the genius doctor who harmed Xiong'er, then it must be someone else with ulterior motives. "Ninth Prince, what are you doing? How dare you? Why is there blood splattered all over the hall?" The empress screamed once again. Chu Mingyuan comforted Consort Xiong and brought Su Yingxue to the outer hall. In the main hall, Chu Yihan threw in 2 bloody people, scaring the empress so much that her face turned pale. Chu Mingyuan furrowed his brows and looked at Chu Yihan. What's going on? Chu Yihan coldly pointed at the two people on the ground. Consort Xiong's maidservant and the chief eunuch. Two extremely important witnesses. Xiong Ling had been tortured and was covered in blood. She desperately crawled towards Su Yingxue and weakly said, "Genius doctor, please save your majesty." "Save your majesty." As soon as she spoke, the empress panicked and said, "Emperor, these people failed to serve Consort Xiong properly and almost caused her to lose her life. They should be executed immediately to avenge Consort Xiong." "Empress, are you seeking justice for the concubine, or do you want to kill the concubine's witnesses?" Consort Xiong trembled as she walked out. Chu Mingyuan immediately held her in his arms, his eyes filled with concern. "Xiong'a, I told you to rest well. Why did you come out?" "Emperor, I do not want to die for no reason again. Xiong Ling is a servant girl I brought from my hometown. She would never harm me." Every word from Consort Xiong made Chu Mingyuan's heart ache even more. "Your Majesty, it was all my carelessness. I left the medicine furnace for a moment today and that's when you were plotted against. I deserve to die." Xiong Ling kowtowed, tears streaming down her face, consumed by guilt. "I had already warned you that only one person could touch the Empress medicine and not leave. Why did something happen to the Empress today? Why did you leave?" Su Yingxue asked sharply. Xiong Ling angrily pointed at the person beside her. "It's eunuch Qin. He came to tell me that something had happened to the genius doctor. I was worried and went to look for your majesty. When I came back, eunuch Qin had finished brewing the medicine and I brought it to your majesty. Who knew that your majesty would vomit blood after drinking it? I have never let others brew medicine for your majesty, but did not expect eunuch Qin to actually." 1. Chapter 70. The Empress smells of poison. How could eunuch Qin not have thought of this? He had thought that by helping the Empress complete this task, he could live a peaceful life in the palace. Little did he know that the Empress would eliminate any loose ends. He was already halfway to his doom. Eunuch Qin trembled as the Empress left him no room to speak. "Emperor, in my opinion, these two individuals failed to serve Consort Xiong properly and should be executed. It will serve as a warning to others." "Is it to serve as a warning, or is the Empress trying to silence them?" Su Yingxu's lips curved into a cold smile. "A lowly commoner, when do you have the right to question me? How insolent!" The Empress shouted, her eyes filled with anger. She ordered her men to capture Su Yingxue, but Chu Yihan stood by her side, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. When the guards and palace servants saw this, they immediately retreated and shrunk their necks, not daring to have any thoughts of touching Su Yingxue. "That's enough, Empress. If you have nothing to hide, why rush to kill these two people?" Chu Mingyuan's gaze turned cold as he looked at the Empress. He pointed at eunuch Qin. "Did you poison Xiong'a? Speak up. Otherwise, I will exterminate your entire family." Eunuch Qin was trembling. He had anticipated this moment ever since Chu Yihan saved him. But all his family members were in the Empress grasp. "Emperor, you are well aware of the Empress methods. If you want eunuch Qin to tell the truth, it would be better to release his family first, relieving him of concerns," Su Yingxue calmly suggested. Chu Yihan nodded in agreement. "She's right." The Empress clenched her fists tightly, wishing she could tear Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan apart. "Emperor, I didn't do it. Please don't listen to the slanderous words of this lowly person." Consort Xiong leaned against Chu Mingyuan's embrace, her eyes filled with resentment. "Emperor, I want to know the truth and receive justice." "Very well, Xiong'a, I promise you, I will ensure justice for you." Chu Mingyuan gently caressed her head. As he looked at eunuch Qin, the weight of his imperial authority pressed down. "I will spare your family, but you must tell me the truth. What did you do? Who ordered you to do it?" Eunuch Qin was moved to tears and quickly kowtowed. "Thank you, Emperor. I was instructed by the Empress to poison Consort Xiong's medicine. I have served Consort Xiong for many years and would never harm her. However, my family is under the Empress control, and I had no choice." He had no other options. The hatred in Consort Xiong's eyes deepened. Empress, you are so vicious. Using human lives to threaten and poison the lives of concubines. How can you be so ruthless? Consort Xiong, stop spouting nonsense. This matter was framed by this servant. I didn't do it. The Empress raised her chin defiantly, refusing to admit it. Oh. Then let's invite the court physicians to examine the poison in Consort Xiong's body and see if the Empress has been contaminated. Su Yingxue produced the handkerchief she used to wipe Consort Xiong's blood and handed it to the court physicians for analysis. After confirming the presence of poison on the handkerchief, the court physicians turned their gaze toward the Empress. What are you looking at? Search her. See if she carries this poison on her body. Chu Mingyuan waved his hand and shouted. The Empress was caught off guard. The palace servants held her down. The court physicians detected the scent of poison on her body and promptly reported, Emperor, the Empress carries the scent of this poison. No, it can't be. This is impossible. The Empress vigorously shook her head, unable to believe that she would be so foolish as to allow herself to be tainted with the scent of poison. Chapter 71. Exposing the miracle doctor's identity. Su Yingxue raised her lips and chuckled, which Chu Yihan happened to notice. Chu Yihan squeezed her palm. Su Yingxue innocently shrugged her shoulders, indicating that she wasn't the one responsible for this mischief. Chu Mingyuan was seething with anger. Empress, you are truly an exceptional empress of mine. Over the years, how many despicable acts have you committed? You even plotted to take Xiong's life. Such maliciousness. Leave. The Empress hastily knelt down, her eyes red as she shouted, Emperor, I dare not. I didn't do it. All of this is a scheme orchestrated by this lowly person. She impersonated a genius doctor. Perhaps she poisoned Consort Xiong and deceived her. They conspired against me. Conspire against you? Xiong is still in a weak state. How could she conspire against you? Chu Mingyuan tenderly embraced Consort Xiong, his brows furrowed as he glared at the Empress. Consort Xiong struggled to support her body. Empress, if you suspect that I'm conspiring with the genius doctor, you can have all the court physicians examine my pulse to determine if I'm truly alive and being manipulated. The Empress clenched her teeth. Court physicians, quickly come and examine her. See if this concubine has been bewitched by this fake genius doctor. She was filled with disdain. Even though Consort Xiong had received favor in the past, she would never dare to disobey her, the Empress of the Middle Palace. Now, she dared to challenge herself in front of the Emperor. Several court physicians hurriedly approached Consort Xiong, intending to examine her pulse. However, Chu Mingyuan ordered them to retreat. Get lost. How could I not know if Xiong is alive or not? Empress, you show no remorse and even wish to insult Xiong. I will not easily forgive you. Emperor, I didn't do it. I am wholeheartedly devoted to you, Emperor. You are still unaware of the truth. This so-called genius doctor has an unknown background. She might be a spy from an enemy country. Furthermore, there are people in Tongchang Medical Center who can testify that there was no such genius doctor there. Who can testify? Chu Mingyuan furrowed his brow. He had doubts about the genius doctor. Consort Xiong had died in his arms, but after being treated by this genius doctor, she miraculously came back to life. He could sense that she was still his Xiong and hadn't changed. However, the situation was just too suspicious. I can testify that the genius doctor is from Tongchang Medical Center, and there is nothing untoward about it. Chu Yihan's dark eyes exuded a convincing composure. Even Chu Mingyuan couldn't harbor doubts. Normally, Chu Mingyuan would have believed Chu Yihan. But Chu Mingyuan found his attitude towards this genius doctor quite peculiar. Chu Yihan had always been aloof and cold, never one to defend someone like this. The more he defended, the more Chu Mingyuan felt something was amiss with this genius doctor. He wanted to get to the bottom of it. Emperor, I am just an ordinary physician. The title genius doctor is bestowed upon me by patients. If this leads to your suspicion, I won't cling to the title. Anyone can be a genius doctor if they wish. I don't mind. Su Yingxu's words carried the same aloofness and coldness as Chu Yihan. Chu Mingyuan became even more doubtful. If that's the case, take off your hood and let me see who you are. Su Yingxue hesitated for a moment. Emperor, please forgive me, but I cannot comply. Emperor, I knew that there was something wrong with her. I implore you to capture this person and interrogate her rigorously. Do not let Su Yingxue escape. The Empress' expression was venomous, with an intense determination to take Su Yingxue's life. Chapter 72. Su Eurus framing Chu Mingyuan's eyes darkened. Since you refuse, I will have the Empress bring the witness here to question you and find out who you are and what your intentions are. Emperor, the genius doctor is a good person, and you, Consort Xiong anxiously wanted to plead for Su Yingxue, but Chu Mingyuan restrained her. Chu Mingyuan held her tightly. Xiong'er, your heart is pure and easily manipulated by others. Let me handle the questioning. Don't worry, I will be fair. Emperor, Consort Xiong wanted to speak again, but she saw Chu Mingyuan's face darken. He didn't allow her to speak further. If she pleaded again, it would only anger him and erase his compassion for her. Consort Xiong looked apologetically at Su Yingxue, and Su Yingxue waved her hand, indicating that Consort Xiong didn't need to worry. She also wanted to see who the Empress had brought as a witness. The Empress sent Grand Eunuch Liu Fu out, and he returned with a graceful woman. She wore a pure white dress adorned with jasmine flowers, and her whole being exuded flawless beauty like a blooming white lotus. Su Euro gracefully knelt. Su Euro, daughter of the Marquis of Marshall South, pays respects to the Emperor, Empress, and Consort Xiong. Rise. Chu Mingyuan spoke coldly. The Empress claims that you are a witness. What evidence do you have to prove that this genius doctor has an unknown background? Emperor, I am the witness. The owner of Tongchang Medical Center is my sister, Su Yingxue. My sister has never known any genius doctor, so the identity of this person remains unknown. I beseech Emperor to thoroughly investigate. Su Euro spoke earnestly, and the shimmering light in her eyes made it hard not to believe her. Chu Mingyuan's gaze turned icy as he looked at Su Yingxue. Who are you exactly? Infiltrating the residence of the Marquis' daughter with unclear intentions. The Empress let out a smug laugh. This genius doctor of unknown origin would have an unfavorable outcome. Su Yingxue pressed her thin lips together, responding casually, Emperor, I don't have any hidden motives. I simply want to use my medical skills to treat and benefit the people. Chu Yihan observed the woman beside him, his eyes filled with approving light. She was covered from head to toe, but it couldn't conceal her radiance. Emperor, I implore you, no matter what mistake this genius doctor has committed, please don't blame my sister. My sister is still inexperienced and was deceived by her, that's why she did this. My sister did not intentionally harm Consort Xiong and the Empress, causing the Emperor's harem to be restless. Su Euro pleaded earnestly. It was hard not to notice that compared to her sister, she considered her sister to be brainless. Su Yingxue's reputation for being impulsive and foolish had spread throughout Jiangdu City. Whenever Chu Mingyuan thought of her, he furrowed his brow. He remembered that as a child, she would often cause trouble in the palace, but he never paid much attention to her as a young girl, thanks to old General Su's merits. Now she had brought an unidentified genius doctor, which was infuriating. Your sister opens a medical center without even knowing the doctor's identity. It shows her lack of qualifications. Chu Mingyuan's expression was cold. I may not blame her, but if the identity of this genius doctor isn't clarified, I will not let her go. Emperor, although the genius doctor's background is unknown, my sister is innocent. I implore you not to link the two together. My sister truly doesn't know the reasons. Su Euro emphasized once again the connection between the genius doctor and Su Yingxue, causing people to speculate. The Empress sneered, even if your sister doesn't know this person's identity, she's still suspected of harboring them. If this person is guilty, your sister won't escape the consequences. Chapter 73. Show your face. Su Euro's face was filled with horror, and she burst into tears on the spot, pleading relentlessly for Su Yingxue. Chu Mingyuan organized the situation and stared at Su Yingxue, giving orders, Lan Ling, go and capture everyone from Tongchang Medical Center. I will personally interrogate them and find out who this mysterious genius doctor is and what her motives are. Hold on. Su Yingxue spoke calmly. Emperor, do you want to see the face of this humble subject and know my true identity? Chu Mingyuan's voice was firm and cold. I will not allow anyone to endanger my harem and the stability of the empire. Her actions had already raised doubts in him. If he didn't investigate thoroughly, even if it meant making a mistake, he would never leave behind this unknown threat. Su Yingxue clenched her fists tightly. She didn't want to draw attention to herself, and now was not the right time to reveal her identity. But with the Empress and Su Yuro pressuring her, and Chu Mingyuan doubting her as well, Consort Xiong wouldn't be able to protect her. If you don't want to speak, I will take you away, Chu Yihan's low and magnetic voice sounded. He held Su Yingxue's hand, and the warmth in his palm touched her, prompting a response. Su Yingxue nodded, yes. Chu Yihan held her hand and walked away, paying no attention to the astonishment of everyone in the hall. Chu Mingyuan shouted from behind, Chu Yihan, are you rebelling? Chu Yihan ignored him completely. Chu Mingyuan yelled, Lan Ling, kill this unidentified person on the spot. Yes, Emperor. Lan Ling chased after them with his sword. Taking advantage of the other guards being occupied with Chu Yihan, he leaped into the air and swung his sword towards Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue into his embrace. Even if Lan Ling found an opportunity, he didn't dare to harm Chu Yihan. A fierce struggle ensued among the group of people. Consort Xiong wanted to plead with Chu Mingyuan several times, but seeing his dark expression, she didn't dare to make an easy plea. The Empress wore a sinister expression. This genius doctor would undoubtedly die in the palace today. Once she died, Chu Chengyes' danger would be resolved. No one would sacrifice the life of a prince while the genius doctor perished. As for Su Yuro, her eyes were fixed on Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue's hands, and she was furious. It was all because of Su Yingxue that Chu Yihan cared so much about this woman. She would die today. Su Yingxue would not have a good ending either. Chu Yihan's martial arts were powerful, and he defeated all the imperial guards by himself. When the obstacles were cleared, he wanted to bring Su Yingxue away. Su Yingxue heard Chu Mingyuan's angry roar behind her and suddenly changed her mind. Chu Yihan turned around and asked her, "What's wrong?" Su Yingxue curled her lips slightly. "Your Highness, I won't drag you down this time." She didn't want to owe him too much. She let go of Chu Yihan's hand and turned back to face Lan Ling, who was chasing after her. Lan Ling's moves were fierce, and he slashed at her. Even someone as skilled as Chu Yihan could not stop him in time. However, the black veil that was raised allowed Lan Ling to see a face that could topple the world. She was shockingly beautiful, so his hand trembled and the knife tilted slightly. The blade just happened to split the hood on her head. Clang! The hood fell to the ground softly. The moment Su Yingxue's face was revealed, everyone held their breaths. Ah! Only Su Yuro screamed, her face turning pale with fear. How? How could it be you? Su Yingxue returned to the palace and knelt with a straight posture. Emperor, I, Su Yingxue, your humble subject's daughter, had no choice but to deceive you. Please forgive me. You are Su Yingxue. The Empress was infuriated, and a wave of emotions flooded her heart. Chapter 74. Su Yingxue is full of tricks. She subconsciously glared at Su Yuro. What's wrong with you? Didn't you say that you knew her identity? How could it be Su Yingxue? You lied to me, you're courting death. Empress, please spare me, Empress. I don't know. I didn't know it was my sister. Su Yuro was so scared that she was trembling. Countless words of impossible gushed out in her heart. It was impossible for Su Yingxue to have medical skills. It was impossible for her to be so amazing. How could she do all of this? Impossible. Chu Mingyuan was stunned. You are Shu Li's daughter? Su Yingxue could see a trace of strangeness in Chu Mingyuan's eyes. He seemed to be very familiar with her mother, and the name he called her was Shu Li. Get up. Chu Mingyuan sighed softly. A trace of regret flashed across his eyes as he looked at Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan quickly walked back to Su Yingxue's side and held her hand. Her hand was a little cold, so Chu Yihan used his palm to warm her. Su Yingxue looked at him gratefully and then broke free from his hand. She knelt again and looked at Chu Mingyuan with a sincere gaze. Emperor, I hid my identity previously and made you suspicious. Consort Xiong and the Empress misunderstood. This is my responsibility. I beg for forgiveness. Chu Mingyuan's attitude changed drastically. Please rise, Su Yingxue. I don't understand, since you have medical skills and opened Tongchang Medical Center, why are you wearing a hood, hiding your identity, and getting involved in the palace conflicts? Su Yingxue turned around and swept her cold gaze across Su Yuro and the Empress. If it wasn't for Su Yuro and the Empress being so aggressive, I would have kept my identity a secret. Why? Chu Mingyuan was even more puzzled. Even Consort Xiong did not understand. I heard that the Marquise Manner's daughter, Miss Su, has always had a bad reputation, but you clearly have extraordinary medical skills and can even save my life, so how can you hide? She had previously thought that Chu Yihan, who had always been cold and would even reject the emperor's request, was actually so concerned about a commoner girl and personally escorted her. So, she was Su Yingxue. Consort Xiong is a recluse and knows that my reputation is not good. Su Yingxue laughed at herself. Consort Xiong laughed softly. This has become my fault. I didn't mean it that way, Consort Xiong. What I meant was that my reputation is not good, even you know about it. If I were to practice medicine at Tongchang Medical Center, who would believe me and come to seek my help? And even if they did, how could I display my medical skills? Su Yingxue explained helplessly. She wished to use her real identity and practice medicine honestly, but her reputation and lack of trust from others hindered her. Not only would it arouse suspicion, but someone had to be willing to entrust her with the illness. According to Su Yuro and Su Dingheng's previous plan of flattery and cold violence, she could not do so. To hide her strength and accumulate strength, she did this. Hearing her explanation, everyone in the hall sighed. She had peerless medical skills, but because of her identity, she could not use them. Yes, that's right. The court physician sighed. If that's the case, Miss Su's actions are reasonable. If not, wouldn't she be wasting her remarkable medical skills? Exactly. Who would disagree? Chu Mingyuan nodded in agreement and stroked his beard. It's understandable. What do you mean by understandable? Emperor, I think Su Yingxue is full of schemes and plot. The Empress pointed at Su Yingxue and shouted angrily. A trace of killing intent flashed in her eyes. Back then, she failed to kill this vile spawn in her mother's womb. After so many years, she even threatened her position. Chapter 75. Can't let Su Yingxue off. Don't talk nonsense. She is Xu Li's daughter. Do you think you can tarnish Xu Li's medical skills? Chu Mingyuan shouted angrily, his expression more serious than when he learned about the Empress plot against Consort Xiong. It was clear that he held great respect for Su Yingxue's mother. He instructed Su Yingxue to rise and said, although you were wrong to deceive me, considering that you did it for the sake of practicing medicine and saving lives, I will not pursue the matter. Furthermore, since you have cured Xiong'er, I will reward you generously. A hint of surprise crossed Su Yingxue's eyes, but she still expressed her gratitude by kowtowing. Thank you, Emperor. There is one more thing. After Su Yingxue stood up, Chu Mingyuan looked at her with a gentle gaze. Since you have inherited Xu Li's medical skills, you should carry on her legacy. Xu Li was straightforward, and you don't need to conceal your identity anymore. Be an upright physician. If some patients refuse to seek treatment from you because of your identity, it's their fault. Don't be upset about it, understood? His words carried earnest admonishment and a touch of consolation, providing a sense of reassurance. However, Su Yingxue remained concerned. Emperor, I dare to be impudent and ask if you knew my mother and were acquainted with her. Do you know the cause of my mother's death? I know your mother, but she has passed away. You don't need to ask about these matters anymore. Focus on your duties. Chu Mingyuan's words held profound meaning. He gave Su Yingxue various rewards, and even sent Lan Ling to personally escort her back to the Marquise Manor. Emperor, you can't let her go like this. Ye has gone missing. She must have taken him away. The Empress had no choice but to reveal this matter, her eyes filled with anger. It would have been acceptable if she had been able to kill Su Yingxue, but now that Su Yingxue had received the Emperor's recognition and protection, Chu Chengye's safety was at risk. If Su Yingxue were to do anything to him, how could he go missing? If news spreads about a prince of the imperial family disappearing, it would be a laughingstock. If I learn the truth, I will certainly punish the culprits severely. Chu Mingyuan's words seemed like a reprimand directed at the Empress, but his gaze ultimately fell on Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue understood that Chu Mingyuan was indirectly instructing her to release Chu Chengye. He probably didn't want her to dwell on the matter between her and the Empress any longer. Considering Chu Mingyuan's kind treatment towards her, she could let him go. However, she would continue investigating her mother's cause of death, which she would investigate the Empress. Emperor, Xiong'er is tired. Consort Xiong, seeing that Su Yingxue's matter had been resolved, no longer tried to endure her pain. Having returned from the brink of death, she truly felt the extreme weakness of her body. After Chu Mingyuan confirmed that Consort Xiong was fine, he entrusted her treatment to the court physician and allowed Su Yingxue to leave. Su Yingxue was initially worried about Consort Xiong, but before she could speak, Su Yuro took advantage of the situation. Emperor, my sister possesses exceptional medical skills. Let her treat Consort Xiong. Initially, Chu Mingyuan had not paid attention to her, but upon hearing her words, he recalled that she had previously called Su Yingxue a fool and attempted to frame her. He immediately furrowed his brow. Impudence. Are you suggesting that the court physicians in my palace lack skill? Su Yuro hurriedly knelt, tears trembling on her delicate face. Emperor, I didn't mean that. I only thought that my sister's medical skills were outstanding, so, why didn't you mention her exceptional medical skills earlier then? Chu Mingyuan interrogated Su Yuro, and she was so overwhelmed by the pressure that she dared not speak any further. Since Chu Mingyuan had already begun reprimanding her, he decided to say a few more words. Chapter 76. Seeing Su Yuro make a fool of herself, Chu Mingyuan reprimanded her and decided to say a few more words. You were never Shu Li's daughter. You were born from a concubine. Old General Su was kind enough to allow the children from concubines to enter the household. You should show respect to the legitimate eldest daughter and serve her well. However, I can see that you have shown no respect to your sister and have overstepped your boundaries. It is truly unacceptable. I won't punish a weak woman like you today, but I will tell Marquis of Marshall South about this and let him rectify the atmosphere in the Marquis manner. Su Yuro trembled in fear, feeling like a sieve being held tightly. On the other hand, Su Yingxue felt quite pleased with the situation. She received her rewards and left the palace. Lan Ling arranged a carriage for her, and Chu Yihan accompanied her, holding her hand. I will escort you back to the manor. Su Yingxue wanted to reject him. She had already caused Chu Yihan a lot of trouble. Today's conflict between him and the Emperor had made her afraid. However, when she saw Su Yuro following behind, noticing her closeness with Chu Yihan, her eyes were filled with raging jealousy. She decided not to pull her hand away from Chu Yihan. Instead, she slightly raised the corner of her mouth and sweetly said, "Very well, thank you, Your Highness." Chu Yihan, with a mischievous smile on his face, intended to help her into the carriage. Su Yuro's throat went dry. She wished she could tear Su Yingxue apart. She shamelessly ran to the side of the carriage. Sister, please take Rua back to the manor with you. Rua hasn't seen Daddy for a long time and misses him dearly. Su Yingxue sat in the carriage and opened the curtain. She said indifferently, "You can go back by yourself. Why do you have to ride with me?" Su Yuro's face turned red from being rejected in front of the palace guards. "I don't have a carriage. Sister, please take me with you. I miss father." "It's none of my business that you miss your father. You can hire a carriage and go back by yourself. How can you lose your way inside the palace? The palace is not a place for idlers." Su Yingxue laughed heartily, feeling particularly delighted to scold Su Yuro. Behind Lan Ling, a few palace guards were secretly laughing, saying that when the time came, they would make Su Yuro leave. Su Yuro was driven to tears by the bullying. She knew she could leave the palace, but she wanted to leave with Chu Yihan. Why should Chu Yihan be the one to send Su Yingxue back to the manor, while she couldn't even hitch a ride? Su Yuro had confidence in her teary-eyed appearance, so she approached Chu Yihan and spoke in a weak and delicate voice, "Your Highness, I am weak and frail. Please have mercy on me and bring me back to the manor. I will be eternally grateful and repay you in the future." Bang! Chu Yihan responded by closing the carriage window with a bang. He didn't even spare her a glance. Chu Yihan's action made the palace guards and attendants, who were previously holding back their laughter, burst into laughter. Lan Ling turned around and scolded them, "Shut up." The palace guards immediately stopped laughing, but everyone was still looking at Su Yuro as if she were a joke. Su Yuro's eyes lit up, thinking that Lan Ling had a favorable impression of her. She turned to approach Lan Ling, intending to ask her to take her back, acting weak and fragile. However, Lan Ling glanced at her and simply said, "Miss Su, please make way." Su Yuro was petrified on the spot. Seeing that Su Yuro didn't make way, Lan Ling waved his hand, and two palace servants brushed her aside. Then, he cleared the way for Su Yingxue and escorted her back to the manor. Su Yuro sat by the palace wall, crying out loud, "Su Yingxue, you bully. You all bully me." She only cried for a short while before she walked toward the palace gate with her delicate steps. If she didn't leave quickly, the Empress would find trouble with her. Chapter 77, Su Denheng kneels at Su Yingxue. Chapter 77, Su Denheng kneels at Su Yingxue. The Empress had also suffered a great loss this time and would be punished. If she could not find Su Yingxue to vent her anger, she would not let her off. Just as she was about to leave the palace, Liu Fu's sharp voice rang out, "Miss Su, it's still early. There's no need to rush out of the palace." Su Yuris' delicate body trembled, her eyes filled with fear. At the Marquise Manor, Su Dingheng heard that Chu Mingyuan had issued an edict, so he quickly changed his clothes and went to greet him at the gate. Seeing the carriages from the palace approaching, he was trembling, thinking that it might be because Su Yingxue had caused a major problem in the palace and the emperor was coming to reprimand her. But when he saw Chief Imperial Guard Lan Ling standing in front of the carriage, he became puzzled. Lan Ling was personally escorting them. Could it be that the emperor or empress had come to the Marquise Manor? This would be a huge trouble. Su Dingheng was well versed in the ways of a civil official. The moment the carriage came to a stop, he immediately knelt and shouted, "This humble subject is guilty. Please forgive me, Emperor and Your Majesty. My daughter has caused trouble. It is all this humble subject's failure to properly educate her. Please forgive me, Emperor." A palace guard standing beside Lan Ling couldn't help but burst out laughing. Lan Ling looked at Su Dingheng in confusion and said, "Marquis, there's no need for you to do this. The one who has come is not the Emperor." "Not the Emperor?" Su Dingheng was perplexed. Then who else could be riding in the royal carriage? There was also another carriage behind, filled with valuable-looking items. Chu Yihan poked his head out of the carriage and said, "Marquis Su, do you only show respect to the emperor and not to me?" Chu Yihan's words made Su Dingheng's legs go weak again, and he knelt heavily. "Greetings, Your Highness. Please forgive me, Your Highness." Su Dingheng's whole body was shaking. How could he have forgotten about this troublesome person? It was like encountering a ghost. Laughter suddenly came from the carriage, and Su Dingheng found it somewhat familiar. Chu Yihan got off the carriage first and reached out to help Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue playfully jumped down, and Chu Yihan held her waist tightly to prevent her from falling. At that moment, Su Dingheng's expression was complex as he said, You unfilial daughter." How could she willingly accept his kneeling in the carriage? She was defying the heavens. "Father, you don't need to pay such respects to me. Please get up." Su Yingxue kindly reminded him not to be angry and to stop kneeling to her. Feeling a little embarrassed, Su Dingheng quickly stood up, his face showing both anger and chaos. But before long, Lan Ling conveyed the emperor's edict, stating that Su Yingxue had made significant contributions to save Consort Xiong. The items in the carriage were all rewards for her, and the emperor also mentioned that he would personally inscribe a plaque for the Tongchang Medical Center in the future, allowing Su Yingxue to manage it properly. Lan Ling also added, as she deduced Chu Mingyuan's intention, the emperor distinguishes between seniority and values legitimacy. Marquis, please understand the emperor's intentions. Su Dingheng nodded repeatedly, saying, I understand, I understand. I will treat Ingxue well. She is the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor, and everyone in the residence respects her. Lan Ling nodded in response, saying, that's good. With his task completed, it was time for Lan Ling to return to the palace and report. He glanced at Chu Yihan from the corner of his eye. It seemed that he didn't intend to leave with him. However, this was not a matter for a chief imperial guard to be concerned about. After Lan Ling left, Su Dingheng looked at the carriage filled with rewards, his eyes shining brightly. He quickly ordered people to move them into the Marquis Manor and had no time to pay attention to Su Ingxue and Chu Yihan. Su Ingxue didn't know when Chu Yihan had taken her hand again. She struggled silently and whispered, Thank you for defending me today, Your Highness. It has caused you trouble to argue with the Emperor. Chapter 78. This king is here, you can be at ease. Chapter 78. This king is here, you can be at ease. Su Ingxue, I saved you, not so that you could be courteous with me. Chu Yihan's face turned cold, and his tone was displeased. In front of so many people, should I not be courteous to Your Highness? Su Ingxue pulled at the corner of her mouth helplessly. Chu Yihan seemed unconcerned, but for the sake of her reputation as a young lady, he lowered his voice and said, You slept with me, so there's no need to be polite to me. Your Highness. Su Ingxue quickly covered his mouth and warned him with her eyes. Be careful with your words, Your Highness. It was he who had forced her. She never intended to sleep with him. Chu Yihan's eyes gleamed with a wicked smile. He didn't care about the process, only the result. And the result was that they had slept together on the same bed. He noticed that Su Ingxue had something on her mind, so he gently pinched her hand and asked, Do you suspect that your mother's death is related to Imperial Brother? Su Ingxue shook her head. The Emperor seemed familiar with my mother, but he refused to tell me anything. Why was Princess Xu Li granted the title of princess? Do you know? Chu Yihan's fingers caressed the back of her hand. Su Ingxue tried hard to recall. In her previous life, she had never paid much attention to her mother, and she knew very little about her. She only knew that her mother had no relatives in the capital, but her status was noble and she was respected by many people. Chu Yihan explained, Princess Xu Li once saved my father, and my father bestowed her with the title of princess. At that time, my father intended to marry her to Imperial Brother, but Princess Xu Li refused to be a concubine and chose to marry your father instead. Su Yingxu's heart felt a chill. Her mother was a woman of such integrity, but she must have been deceived by her father, who had the face of a scumbag civil servant. She nodded and said, Thank you, Your Highness. Su Dingheng had finished moving the belongings and had been watching them for a long time. Finally, Chu Yihan reluctantly let go of Su Yingxu's hand. Before leaving, he whispered gently in her ear, Su Ingxue, he'll be there for you at any time. Whenever she needed him. Su Ingxue felt a warm embrace in her heart, melting away the coldness she had experienced in the treacherous palace. Ingxue, you have worked hard in saving Consort Xiong. Today, Daddy has prepared a feast for you to replenish your energy. For the first time, Su Dingheng showed a kind expression and was exceptionally considerate. After they entered the residence, he immediately ordered the dishes Su Ingxue loved, such as abalone, ginseng, shark fin, deer antler, and bird's nest. He brought out all the good things he had. Su Ingxue rarely had a meal with him, and she even had an extra bowl of rice. After seeing that she had finished eating, Su Dingheng put down his chopsticks and asked cautiously, Ingxue, now that both you and Rua have returned from the palace, there's no reason for her to stay there. Besides saving Consort Xiong, did anything else happen in the palace? If there's any trouble, you must tell Daddy, and I will support you. Su Ingxue almost believed him. You will support me. If I say that I have angered the Empress, what? Are you crazy? How dare you provoke the Empress? Su Ingxue, you unfilial daughter, if you want to die, don't drag the Marquis Manor into it. Su Dingheng erupted in anger and cursed Su Ingxue with a string of insults. After he calmed down, he questioned her, "Was your sister detained in the palace because of this?" Su Yingxue, how could you be so heartless? Rua is your biological sister, yet you didn't help her. Chapter 79, Eating Su Yingxue's Remains. Cough. Su Yingxue took a sip of tea and choked lightly. She cleared her throat and calmly faced Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng looked at her composed demeanor and was about to say something to manipulate her. But before he could speak, Su Yingxue calmly said, "Father, don't you have any idea why Su Yuro is still in the palace and unable to leave? Do you know why she knows Consort Xiong and why she became the Empress accomplice in framing me and the medical center?" Su Dingheng's guilty conscience caused him to lower his head, and his left hand trembled uncontrollably. How did you know? Where did you hear all this? These are baseless accusations against me and your sister. Accusations? It seems that father no longer cares about my sister's safety. You even want to abandon all the businesses you hold. Su Yingxue lifted her teacup and let out a cold laugh. A trace of killing intent flashed in her once beautiful eyes. Su Dingheng panicked. What do you want? Your sister is a delicate woman. How can she withstand the torment in the palace? I will go and save her right away. You must not make things difficult for her anymore. Su Dingheng said this and paced back and forth in the hall twice. Su Yingxue, who was observing the scene, sarcastically remarked, "Why isn't father going? If you wait any longer, the palace gates will be locked." Su Dingheng felt both ashamed and annoyed. He resented that Su Yingxue had seen through his cowardice and pretense, yet he had no choice but to turn back and plead with her, "You are Su Yure's sister after all. Why don't you bring her back and save her? If I save her, will father save me?" Su Yingxue's smile turned mocking. If it were Su Yuro who returned now and Su Yingxue trapped in the palace, would father care about my life or death? I definitely would care. Su Dingheng stubbornly clung to his pride. Very well. Then I will stay here with father today and see if Su Yuro will return. If she dies in the palace, I will personally take care of her and give her a grand funeral. Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow, her eyes sparkling like radiant pearls. Su Dingheng was nearly blinded by her brilliance. In the end, he didn't dare to cause a scene by entering the palace, so he could only wait in the Marquise manor. As night fell, Su Yuro finally returned. He anxiously looked at Su Yuro being helped in. "Rua, are you all right? Father was so worried about you." Father, once she was back by Su Dingheng's side, Su Yuro couldn't hold back her tears any longer. She poured out all her grievances, unwillingness, breakdown, and weakness in front of Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng's heart trembled with her cries. Su Yingxue watched the scene unfold, and even with a touch of kindness, she reminded, "Sister must be hungry. You should eat something to regain your strength before continuing to cry." Su Yuro glared at Su Yingxue with bitterness in her eyes. If it weren't for her, would she have been trapped by the Empress? Would she have endured the invisible but soul-crushing torment in the palace? However, her stomach betrayed her as it kept growling. She looked over at the sumptuous dishes on the table, feeling their alluring appeal. She could not help but scoop a bowl of soup and drink it. She hadn't eaten for a day in the palace, so everything tasted heavenly to her. But it was only after she finished a bowl that she realized, why is the food cold? When Su Dingheng saw her take the first bite, he wanted to tell her that this was the leftovers from his and Su Yingxue's meal. He wanted to make some new dishes for her. However, seeing how hungry she was, he could not bear to interrupt her. Chapter 80. Saving Wu Jinyang. Afraid that her self-esteem would be hurt, Su Dingheng tried to coax her in a roundabout way. "Rua, I will have the kitchen prepare another pot of bird's nest soup and some hot dishes for you. Take a seat and have a little more to eat later." "Father, are these dishes leftovers from your meal?" Su Yuro finally realized that the table full of delicious food had already been touched by chopsticks. Su Yingzux appeared satisfied, and she had actually picked up Su Yingxue's leftovers and eaten them so eagerly. Su Yuro threw the bowl and chopsticks aside, glaring at Su Yingzux with reddened eyes. "You! How dare you treat me like this? You make me eat your leftover scraps. Su Yingzux replied earnestly, when did I mistreat you? Did I force you to eat? It was your ravenousness. Are you blaming me? Have you forgotten the lesson the emperor gave you today? You were born from a concubine, while I am the legitimate daughter of the Marquise Manor. There is a distinction between high and low, legitimacy and illegitimacy. Letting you cap my leftovers was an opportunity for you to serve me. And yet, you dare to accuse me. Su Yuro was both angry and afraid, trembling all over and unable to speak. How could she forget the emperor's lesson today? But she was unwilling. She had also lived a life of luxury for many years and was Su Dinking's daughter. Why should she be humiliated and trampled upon by Su Yingxue? Her anger overwhelmed her, and before she could catch her breath, she fainted. After just finishing the leftover meal, she even vomited all over Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng quickly called for help and had her taken care of in the courtyard. Su Dingheng followed along. Before leaving, he cast a disdainful glance at Su Yingxue. Su Yingzux touched her chest. It still felt sore and painful. In the end, there was no father-daughter bond between them. She went back to the courtyard and rested for a while. The next day, she woke up early and went to the clinic. Due to Chu Mingyuan's instructions, her identity was quickly exposed. She no longer wore a hood to conceal herself and began practicing openly at the clinic. Her consultation fees were not cheap, but there were many wealthy families coming to seek her treatment. She didn't even have time to take a sip of water in the morning. When she finally got some rest, she planned to talk to Wu Jinyang and ask her if she was in trouble at home. However, she couldn't find Wu Jinyang at the medicine cabinet. When she asked Manager Qi, he said, Miss Wu hasn't been here since that day. Something must have happened at home. A hint of urgency flashed across Su Yingxu's face. Why are you telling me now? How many days has it been since we last heard from her? Ah, miss, you were troubled before, so how could I bother you? Miss Wu hasn't come for a few days, and she would have sent someone to deliver things to Fufeng Center. However, when I went to Fufeng Center yesterday to find her, I discovered that she hadn't sent anything there for the past 2 days. The elderly and children there are extremely worried about her. Manager Qi sighed with difficulty. He was also concerned about Wu Jinyang, but he was only responsible for managing the medical clinic. A place like the minister's estate was beyond his abilities. Su Yingzux furrowed her brows and hurriedly went to the Minister of Personnel's estate. When she stood at the door, she hesitated. How should she enter? If she entered through the main entrance and alarmed the entire minister's estate, it might worsen Wu Jinyang's situation. Ziwei appeared behind her, seemingly out of nowhere. She is being held in the backyard. Su Yingxue turned around abruptly, her eyes shining. With Ziwei's guidance, she easily jumped over the wall and made her way to the place where Wu Jinyang was being held. She pushed open the dilapidated window and glanced inside, seeing Wu Jinyang hanging from the ceiling beam. A surge of killing intent suddenly filled her eyes. Bang! She broke through the window and immediately released Wu Jinyang. Catching her body, Su Yingxue noticed that in just a few short days, she had become so thin that she was only left with a body of bones. Chapter 81, Fight. Save me. Wu Jinyang couldn't open her eyes, but when she felt herself being put down, she didn't forget to call for help. She could not die. She did not want to die yet. Sister Jinyang, don't worry. I'll save you. Su Yingxue took out a life-saving pill and fed it to her. Then, she carried her on her back and wanted to bring her out. Before she could take 2 steps, Ziwei blocked her way and said coldly, "There's someone." Su Yingxue stopped in her tracks. She heard someone walking in the courtyard as the person said, "Mitch, I wonder if this bitch is dead or not." She had been hanging for 3 to 4 days, and she still had the strength to call for help. Wu Ruofei got angry just thinking about it. Wu Jinyang was lowly, but she was like wild grass on the mountain. She had a tenacious vitality. No matter how Wu Ruofei beat, scolded, or bullied her since she was young, she never thought of dying. Recently, she had heard from a close friend who had beaten her stepsister to death that she could kill the stepsister she disliked by torturing her, so she did as she was told. However, She did not expect that Wu Jinyang was still breathing when she came to the courtyard last night. She wrung her handkerchief in anger and discussed with Feng He, the maid beside her, "Why don't you go get a knife and I'll poke a few holes in her body, let some blood out and then hang her up, so maybe she'll be dead in a day." Feng He smiled in agreement. "All right, I will accompany Miss to see if she's dead. If she's not dead, I will immediately go and get a knife." Creak. The old wooden door was pushed open. Wu Ruofei was shocked when she saw Su Yingshu's red eyes. After she reacted, she pointed at Su Yingxue angrily. "Su Yingxue, why did you barge into my house? You even put her down. You're courting death." Su Yingxue kicked Wu Ruofei and let her fall. Anger surged in her heart. "Wu Ruofei, she's your biological sister. She would never bully you, but you treat her like this." When Su Yingxue heard what Wu Ruofei said just now, she realized that Wu Ruofei did not treat Wu Jinyang as a person at all. It was as if she was an animal that could be slaughtered by her. Wu Ruofei was in so much pain that she cried on the ground. "Su Yingxue, you barged into my house and kicked me. Men, catch her. Beat her up too." She had been spoiled since she was young and did not have a proper sense of right and wrong. Only what she wanted to do was right. At this moment, when she thought of the embarrassment Su Yingxue had given her previously, she became even angrier. Unfortunately, none of the servants in the minister's estate were a match for Zi Wei. Zi Wei's sword had yet to be unsheathed, but he had already broken their arms and legs, causing them to lie on the ground and wail in pain. Zi Wei's murderous aura approached Wu Ruofei. Wu Ruofei widened her eyes in fear. "Don't come near me. I'm the precious daughter of my parents. If you dare to hit me, my father won't let you off." Su Yingxue carried Wu Jinyang on her back and sneered. "Zi Wei, beat her." "Yes." Zi Wei's scabbard slammed into Wu Ruofei's body without mercy, breaking her limbs. Wu Ruofei lay on the ground, crying loudly. "It hurts. I'm going to die. Mother, save me." Su Yingxue brought Wu Jingyan back to the clinic and examined her body carefully. She found that she had many injuries, big and small. She was beaten with a stick and had been hungry for a long time. Now, she was still unconscious. Su Yingxue could only feed her some ginseng soup to maintain her body. Basins of blood were carried out. Even Manager Qi could not stand it anymore and said, "This is too much. Why was this young girl's mind so crooked? How can she torture Jinyang like this?" Chapter 82. The minister is here. When Su Yingxue asked Manager Qi to enter the room to take care of Wu Jinyang, he saw Wu Jinyan's pale face and sighed repeatedly. However, he thought about how Su Yingxue had barged into the minister's estate and even injured the minister's daughter. She was probably going to cause trouble again. "Miss, you broke the arms and legs of the minister's daughter. What if the minister comes looking for trouble?" he said worriedly. Su Yingxue wiped the blood off her hands, her expression cold. "He will come, and I'm waiting for him to arrive." "Miss, something bad happened. The minister is here." Jilan ran up, panting. The corners of Su Yingxu's mouth curled up slightly as she gestured to Zi Wei. "Let's go downstairs." Zi Wei obediently followed behind her. Manager Qi and the others in the clinic had never dared to speak to Zi Wei. His aura was too intimidating. However, seeing him following behind Su Yingxue like a well-behaved puppet, Manager Qi couldn't help but sigh. "Our miss is truly formidable." In the main hall of the clinic, a middle-aged man was surrounded by over 20 guards. He was dressed in court attire and had a solemn expression. Su Yingxue descended the stairs slowly and spoke in a calm tone. "Who dares to hinder my clinic from conducting business? Do you understand the consequences of delaying a patient's treatment? How dare you? Su Yingxue, don't you recognize me?" Wu Hongtao angrily swung his sleeves. His face displayed an air of righteousness. However, Su Yingxue didn't take him seriously. She knew that beneath Wu Hongtao's solemn appearance was a corrupt individual. In her previous life, before she died, Wu Hongtao had been exposed to corruption, and his entire family had been arrested and exiled. Not receiving a response from Su Yingxue, Wu Hongtao thought she was afraid, so he berated her even louder. You, as the legitimate daughter of the Marquise Manor, have come out in public to conduct business and even brought along my daughter. The two of you have disgraced our elders. And now, you have audaciously entered my residence, causing harm, murder, and even the death of my daughter. I will not let you get away with it. Wu Hongtao, in his position as an official in charge of reviewing others' performance, was skilled at using his words to defame others. The onlookers around the clinic were all taken aback by his words. That can't be true. Miss Su is the owner of the clinic, which is known for treating and saving people. She wouldn't do such things. That's right. I heard that Miss Su is a genius doctor who even cured the seriously ill Consort Xiong. But can the minister lie and falsely accuse others? He said his daughter has died. When the minister says his daughter has died, which daughter is he referring to? Is it the eldest daughter who received preferential treatment, or the other miss who was tortured almost to death by the eldest young miss? Su Yingxue smiled mischievously. Wu Hongtao snorted coldly. What does my daughter have to do with you, Su Yingxue? You intruded into my residence and injured my daughter. I will punish you. Sure, but I will report your crimes to Lord Liangjin, Su Yingxue said firmly. What crime have I committed? Su Yingxue, don't spout nonsense. You're guilty of slandering a third-grade official. Even if your grandfather, old General Su, returns from the battlefield, he can't protect you. Wu Hongtao was so angry that his face turned red. He could not help but feel a little guilty. Su Yingxue flicked her hand and splashed a cup of tea onto his face. You're not worthy of mentioning my grandfather. You! How dare you! How dare you! Men, seize her and take her to the capital prefecture. Chapter 83. My whole body hurts. Wu Hongtao was so furious that he stomped his feet and quickly commanded the guards. They rushed forward, but they couldn't even react to a single move from Ziwei. Wu Hongtao didn't even have a chance to see what happened. The group of guards he brought with him all ended up lying in a jumble inside the clinic, groaning in varying degrees of pain. After Ziwei finished beating them, he stood back behind Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue was holding a teacup, taking a sip, and said, Lord Wu, are you still going to fight? Wu Hongtao's face turned from pale to red. You, how could there be such a capable person by her side? His martial arts skills were incredibly strong, and it was terrifying. Wu Hongtao kicked the people around him a few times and shouted, Are you all useless? Quickly! Follow me to leave. Lord Wu, do you think you can leave just because you can't win? Did I allow it? Su Yingxue crossed her arms and calmly looked at him. Wu Hongtao panicked and said in a composed manner, Su Yingxue, I hold the position of a third-grade official in the court. If you dare to lay a hand on me, I will, bang. Wu Hongtao was kicked. I, Su Yingxue, don't care about someone's rank when I beat them up. Su Yingxue tilted her head, and her previously beautiful face emitted a chilling aura due to her furrowed brows. Wu Hongtao was dumbfounded. How could he have expected Su Yingxue to be so arrogant? Even before he could run out of the clinic, Su Yingxue grabbed him by the back of his collar and gave him another beating. Wu Hongtao quickly pushed aside the commoners and managed to escape from Su Yingxue's clutches. Of course, it was only because Su Yingxue had finished beating him up that he had the opportunity to escape. When Ziwei saw Su Yingxue clapping her hands and returning, a hint of gloominess flashed in his eyes. Why? Su Yingxue took a sip of water and paused for a moment. What do you mean, why? You won't let me take action? Ziwei's eyes darkened, and his gaze became unfathomable. It seemed like he thought she was rejecting him. Su Yingxue shook her head. Although He's despicable, He's still an official. We can't kill him, so there's no need for you to take action. Don't waste your martial arts on someone like him. She patted Ziwei's shoulder, unaware of the change in his expression. Ziwei's hand covered the spot where Su Yingxue had patted him and lingered there for a while. This was her warmth. She also said not to waste his martial arts. This was her appreciation. A faint glimmer appeared at the corners of Ziwei's eyes, emitting a beautiful cold light. After Su Yingxue finished beating Wu Hongtao, She went upstairs to give Wu Jinyang an acupuncture treatment and administered a bowl of medicine. After sleeping for the entire afternoon, Wu Jinyang began to show signs of waking up. Manager Qi occasionally came to check on her and was amazed. Miss medical skills are truly extraordinary. Miss Wu, who was so severely injured, woke up after just 1 day of sleep. His eyes were filled with admiration for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue waved her hand. "I'll have a conversation with Sister Jinyang for a while." "Manager Qi, I have a favor to ask of you. Please write a detailed medical report on Sister Jinyang's condition." Although Manager Qi didn't understand why Su Yingxue needed it, he immediately went downstairs to write the report. When Wu Jinyang woke up, she could only feel pain. Her heart ached. Her wounds hurt. Her muscles and bones hurt. Every part of her body was in pain. She had always been strong, but when she opened her eyes and saw Su Yingxue, 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. "Yingxue, you saved me." "Yes, I saved you, so Sister Jinyang, you can't be too sad. You need to recover quickly." Su Yingxue held her hand and comforted her gently. She knew that the pain throughout Wu Jinyang's body probably couldn't compare to her extreme heartache. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.